Chapter 1547. Regardless of whether Jiang Mantian was willing or not, he was going to suck him into the door of death. That way, no one would be his match. Everyone was shocked by this scene and couldn't understand. However, they soon came to a realization. They discovered that the door of death in the sky was slowly closing. That terrifying aura was also gradually weakening. It seemed that the time for Han Li to activate the energy was up. Han Li naturally knew this, so he couldn't help but speed up. But in the next moment, he was stunned. That was because the door of death behind him had stopped closing halfway. There was a large expanse of pitch-black darkness in the crack of the door. But in the boundless darkness, a deep sound could be heard. Boom, boom, boom. The sound was very deep, as if someone was beating a drum. What is that sound? Where is it coming from? Could it be that someone is still fighting? Everyone was puzzled. When Han Li looked behind him, his expression greatly changed. Not good. His expression became very unsightly because he discovered that the sound was coming from the door of death. But why was there movement coming from the door of death? This kind of abnormal change had never happened before. Could it be that brat? Han Li was bewildered, but apart from this, he had no other explanation. Furthermore, the others seemed to have discovered this scene and began to make guesses. Could it be Lin Xian's movement? It can't be. Didn't they say that the door of death was connected to the netherworld? Once one entered, they would be forever suppressed in hell? How could it come out? But only Lin Xian entered the door of death. If it wasn't him, who else could it be? For a moment, everyone was discussing spiritedly as they carefully looked at the sky. Han Li's gaze was gloomy as he coldly snorted and once again unleashed a terrifying attack on the door of death to seal it. Humph, no matter who you are, you won't be able to break through my door of death. Once you enter, you'll stay there forever. He quickly formed a hand seal and formed a powerful seal on the door of death that emitted a resplendent light. However, the sound of the collision became more and more intense. At first it sounded like a drum, but now it sounded like thunder exploding in the sky, causing everyone's scalps to feel numb. Boom, pung, crack, crack. Finally, the sound became more and more intense, and finally, a black crack appeared in the sky. Pung! The seal on the gate of death instantly shattered. A huge black hole formed above the death's gate. Then a figure flew out quickly. Lin Xian. It's Lin Xian. What? Did that kid really come out? How is this possible? He actually managed to come out of the door of death. Heavens! Is he still human? Everyone cried out in alarm, not daring to believe it. The figure in the sky was Lin Xian. He and his powerful strength had broken through the energy of the door of death and returned to reality. At this moment, the shadow of an azure dragon appeared beneath his feet. Sword chi flickered on his body. The demonic sword in his hand bloomed with a strange light, and his entire person became extremely sharp. What? It's you? How is that possible? How did you break through my door of death? When Han Li saw him, his expression greatly changed and his heart was greatly shaken. To tell the truth, he was truly shocked. This was because no one had ever been able to escape from his door of death. Furthermore, he believed that no one had ever been able to escape. But now, someone had truly come out. He didn't dare to believe this scene. In the sky, Lin Xian's gaze was cold. The door of death is truly not bad. It's the most powerful domain I've ever seen. However, it's still unable to trap me. Now, the battle is over. With that said, his body blurred, and he held the 9 darkness devil sword in his hand. His entire body turned into a streak of resplendent dragon-shaped sword chi, quickly attacking Han Li. This sword strike was truly terrifying. The sword light was like a sea, instantly illuminating the entire sky. He was like a huge dragon, rampaging through the sky with an extremely tyrannical aura. When he felt this aura, Lin Xian felt his scalp go numb. Without any hesitation, he recalled the door of death and began to defend himself. Suddenly, a mysterious purple gate appeared in front of him, emitting a strange aura. It was as if it was connected to hell. Boom. In the next moment, the two collided. Light erupted and heaven and earth trembled. The door of death was directly shattered, disappearing into the void. As for Han Li, he was sent flying, spitting out a mouthful of blood. It was unknown how many of his bones had been broken. When everyone saw this scene, they were all stupefied. They hadn't expected that the previously incomparably powerful Han Li would actually be defeated. Plop! Han Li's body fiercely fell to the ground, unconscious. The surrounding people all sank into deep shock, unable to speak. After a long while, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air, their eyes filled with shock. The most dazzling of the great Xian Empire's younger generation, Han Li had actually been defeated. As for Lin Xian's valiance, it caused everyone to be endlessly shocked. This battle wasn't a matter of luck, but a true battle of strength. Han Li was very powerful, able to suppress the younger generation. However, Lin Xian was even more powerful. Even Han Li wasn't a match for him. Ha ha! As expected, he won. I've struck gold this time. Fatty Luo clapped his hands. He had bet on Lin Xian's victory. He would definitely make a fortune. At the side, the gambling youth widened his eyes in disbelief. Damn, this is a truly ferocious person. Fatty Luo, where did you find such a person? His eyes shined, as if he had seen a rare treasure. He won. He really won. Han Kuan, the youth from the Fire Cloud Nation, Jade Beauty, Bai Yuran, and the others all widened their eyes in disbelief. On the other side, Princess Kai-Dai let out a sigh of relief. A smile appeared on her exquisite face. Chu Yu was also extremely shocked. Then he frowned. Who knew what kind of storm such a person would cause in Danzong? On the other side, the eldest prince's expression was malevolent. He hadn't expected that his strongest subordinate, Han Li, would actually be defeated. He couldn't accept this. Damn it, how is this possible? Who is he? How could he defeat Han Li? The eldest prince raised his head and looked at the sky, his eyes releasing a cold light. Lin Xian, on the other hand, ignored the first prince and looked in another direction. Jiangnan Tian, it's your turn. What? He still wants to fight? Hearing this, everyone felt their scalps go numb. They hadn't expected that Lin Xian would face Jiang Nantian so quickly. Immediately, everyone became excited again because they wanted to know if Lin Xian could defeat Jiang Nantian again. Jiang Nantian also took a deep breath, his expression extremely solemn. Clearly, the previous battle had shocked him greatly. Not only that, he realized that even he wouldn't have been able to block the last move. When he heard his opponent's voice, his expression became even more solemn. But in the end, he sighed. No need. You've won this battle. Chapter 1548. With that said, his entire body seemed to have lost its luster. As a peerless genius, he had his own pride. But now, he discovered that he simply couldn't defeat his opponent. Even if he attacked, he feared that he would suffer the same fate as Han Li. Rather than that, he might as well directly admit defeat. When the surrounding people heard this, their scalps went numb. They didn't dare to believe it. They didn't think that Jiang Nantian would actually directly admit defeat. This was even more shocking than Han Li's defeat. One had to know that Jiang Nantian was a peerless genius. Such a person definitely had a stronger self-esteem than ordinary people. But now his opponent had actually taken the initiative to admit defeat. This meant that he had absolutely no confidence in defeating Lin Shui. Perhaps not even the slightest bit. Otherwise, he absolutely wouldn't admit defeat. With that thought, everyone was extremely shocked. Just how powerful was Lin Xian? He had directly caused a genius of the great Qian Empire to admit defeat. This was definitely a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence. All right, since it's like this, I won't make things difficult for you. Lin Qian nodded. Soon after, he restrained his aura and quickly floated down. Since his opponent had admitted defeat, there was no need for him to fight. Furthermore, he had already achieved his goal. Chu Yu should be able to recommend him to enter the Danzong. Lin Qian didn't go to Princess Kai Dai. Instead, he found a quiet place and sat down cross-legged. Next, the competition continued. The martial artists under the various princesses and princes sparred. However, there was no match that was as exciting as Lin Qian and Han Li's dishes. Finally, all the battles ended. Princess Kai Dai got her wish and entered the first echelon. Although the martial Dao assembly had ended and the various princesses and princes had left, the martial artists didn't. This was because there was still a grand banquet waiting for them. Lin Qian stood up and prepared to leave. But at this moment, a beautiful maid quickly arrived in front of him and respectfully said, "Young master, my princess invites you?" "Yes." Lin Qian slightly nodded. He naturally knew that this was someone sent by Princess Kai Dai. Therefore, he didn't decline and directly followed the other party. In a hall of the Misty Wave Villa, Princess Kai Dai, Chu Yu, and their subordinates were all gathered together. Everyone's face was filled with excitement, especially Princess Kai Dai, who had a smile hanging on her beautiful face. Soon, they saw the beautiful maidservant bringing Lin Qian in. Immediately, everyone stood up. His subordinates were all nervous. After all, Lin Qian was an even more terrifying genius than Han Li. Being together with such a genius, they couldn't help but feel nervous and restrained. Princess Kai Dai smiled and said, "Lin Gongzi, please sit." "All right." Lin Qian nodded, then sat down boldly. This time, Kai Dai was able to enter the first group. "It's all thanks to Lin Gongzi." "It's nothing. I merely made an exchange with Fairy Chu Yu. It's only natural for me to act," Lin Qian indifferently said. Soon after, he glanced at Chu Yu and said, "Since I've already done it, I hope Fairy Chu Yu won't forget your promise. Don't worry, I will definitely be able to let you enter the Danzong. However, it's hard to say what kind of identity you'll have. But with your strength, you should be able to quickly climb up," Chu Yu said. At that moment, Princess Kai Dai asked, "Why does Lin Gongzi want to join the Danzong? Why not join my great Qian Empire? The color disc will definitely treat young master with the highest courtesy." In truth, the great Qian Empire and the Danzong were equal in strength. This was why she was so confident in keeping Lin Qian. "Many thanks for Princess's good intentions, but I've already decided to join the Danzong." Lin Qian shook his head and refused. In truth, if it weren't for the Niwa of Gojoseon's wish, Lin Qian wouldn't join the Danzong either. He would find a sacred land to join. Thus, he wouldn't join the great Qian Empire even more. Seeing Lin Qian's decisive refusal, Princess Kai Dai was disappointed. However, after a while, she said, "Men, bring the gift I've prepared." Soon, a cultivator in black armor walked over with a wooden box. The wooden box was a foot tall and had exquisite carvings on it. It was obvious at a glance that it was made of high-quality wood. "What is this?" Everyone was puzzled. Even Lin Qian was curious. Princess Kai Dai smiled and said, "Open it." As she said this, her eyes flickered. It was obvious that she was very confident in her gift. The cultivator in black armor heard the order and immediately opened the square box. Inside was a Buddha statue. The statue was very lifelike. However, there were 3 sword slashes on the statue. "This is?" Everyone was shocked. Lin Qian also narrowed his eyes. He wasn't unfamiliar with this kind of gift. He had seen it before in the Tiemu continent. However, the sword marks at that time paled in comparison to the ones now. The sword marks on the Buddha statue must have been left by a peerless swordsman. That was because the remnant aura made his heart palpitate. Moreover, not only was the aura sharp, the sword marks seemed to contain a very mysterious energy. At this time, Princess Kaidai said, "I paid a great price to collect this Buddha statue. The 3 sword marks on it are very mysterious and ever-changing. If you can understand it, it will definitely be a great fortune for a swordsman. I was reluctant to take it out before. Today I'll give it to Lin Gongzi." Hearing this, the surrounding cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were full of envy. They weren't weak. Naturally, they could feel the mysterious power contained in the sword marks. It could be said that this was a priceless treasure. However, they could only be envious. There was no other way, because they couldn't get such a treasure. Perhaps if it were someone else, they wouldn't be able to get it either. Perhaps only Lin Xian could make Princess Kaidai give such a treasure. As for Lin Xian, he took a deep breath. The reason for that was because those 3 sword scars were extremely useful to him. So, in the next moment, he quickly nodded. "In that case, I won't be polite. However, I still won't stay here. But I can help you one more time. No matter what, no matter who the enemy is, I can help you once, but there's only one chance. I hope you'll take it seriously." "Really?" Hearing this, Princess Kaidai was excited. Then, "Thank you very much, Lin Gongzi." To be honest, she was originally very disappointed, because even after giving away the Buddha statue, she didn't keep Lin Xian. However, when she heard Lin Xian's words, she suddenly smiled. Chapter 1549. No matter when or what kind of enemy she faced, Lin Xian would help her at least once. This was definitely a very precious condition. One had to know that Lin Xian was already very powerful now, and from the looks of it, he was only in his 20s. His future achievements could be said to be limitless, with such a person agreeing to help her. Even if she encountered a huge problem in the future, it would probably be solved. Kaidai thanked Lin Gongzi here. "You're welcome." Lin Xian nodded, then put away the Buddha statue. Then he turned to look at Chuyu. Chuyu naturally knew what he meant. So she said, "I might stay here for a few more days. If you don't have anything else to do, stay here for a few more days. When things here are over, I'll take you to Danzong." "All right, in that case, I won't disturb you." Lin Xian stood up. "Xiao Shui, take Lin Gongzi to the courtyard to rest." The beautiful little maid from before once again took Lin Xian away. In the next few days, Lin Xian stayed in the Yamba mountain villa. However, he did not participate in any banquets. Instead, he went into seclusion and began to comprehend the 3 sword scars on the Buddha statue. The 3 sword scars were indeed incomparably profound and contained supreme sword Tao. Even Lin Xian could not fully comprehend them in a short period of time. However, every time he comprehended, his understanding of the sword Tao deepened by a lot. Combined with his previous battle experience, this time he created 3 sword moves based on the 3 sword scars. The first move, Azure Dragon Break. This was a very powerful move. The second move, Underworld Waning Moon Break. This move not only incorporated the power of the sword scars, but also the characteristics of Death's Door. To be more precise, it was Death's Door that inspired him to use this move. This was because he had been absorbed by Death's Door and entered a very special space. If he did not have the great dragon sword soul and powerful combat strength, he would not have been able to return at all. Therefore, he had a lot of understanding of this move. Therefore, the second move was to directly use powerful sword chi to shatter the starry sky and send the enemy into an unknown space to be exiled. The third move, Mirror Stillwater. This was a defensive sword technique that could increase the defense of the dragon sword domain. These 3 moves were created by Lin Xian by combining his own strength and the comprehension of the 3 sword scars. They were very suitable. Its power was also extraordinary, and it was definitely not inferior to an Earth-tier martial skill. When he created these 3 moves, the banquet in the Yamba Mountain Villa also ended, because 5 days had passed the banquet in Chang and would eventually come to an end. And on this day, Chuyu finally came to find him. "Let's go." "All right." Lin Xian did not hesitate in the slightest and directly left Misty Wave Mountain Villa with Chuyu, Sky Martial Continent, War God Palace. At this moment, the Lin family had already integrated into the Palace of Gods of War and started their new lives. As for the Palace of Gods of Ares, other than operating normally, it would also pay attention to the situation in Wanling Valley, because that was where Lin Zhan was in seclusion. And on this day, Wanling Valley suddenly shone brightly like a rainbow shining in the sky. This scene directly alarmed everyone in the War God Palace. Countless elders rushed over and were very shocked. Could it be that the palace master had come out of seclusion? As expected, Wanling Valley slowly opened, and a crack appeared on the defensive array outside. Then 2 figures walked out from inside. The person in front was a middle-aged man. He walked with majestic steps, and his gaze was dignified with a righteous aura. He was Lin Zhan, and beside him was a dignified and beautiful middle-aged woman. She was Lin Zhan's wife, and also Lin Xian's mother. Their appearance caused a commotion in the War God Palace. Not only that, but old Master Lin and the others also rushed over excitedly. Soon, the group was reunited. However, Lin Zhan would not stay for long this time. He quickly arranged a few backup plans and was about to leave the Sky Martial Continent. 2 of the most important things were that he had raised old Master Lin and second Uncle Lin's cultivation. It allowed them to directly enter the Half-Step King realm. Moreover, he had left behind a large amount of natural treasures to ensure that they could become true kings. Other than that, he had also left behind a clone. He had spent a lot of effort to cultivate this clone. Thus, it was a lot stronger than the previous clone he had. Its strength was about the same as the heavenly netherbird from before. With this clone's protection, no one would be able to touch the Lin family. After doing all this, Lin Zhan brought his wife and left the Sky Martial Continent. With a wave of his hand, a jet-black spirit boat appeared. Then, the 2 of them boarded the spirit boat and turned into a black bolt of lightning as they charged into the endless sea. Danzong, a sect that focused on alchemists. Its status could be said to be one of the top after the Clan of the Ancients and the Peerless Sacred Grounds. Its location was not in the Great Xian Empire, but it was not far away. Of course, it was not far away in comparison. Even for kings like Lin Xian and Chuyu, they still flew for a total of 7 days. Along the way, Lin Xian looked around at the scenery of the mountains and was shocked. As expected of the eastern wilderness, a true great world, the mountains and rivers here were extremely magnificent. The mountains were majestic and connected to the cities, as if countless dragons were lying down. The river surged, and the river water surged, producing thunderous sounds. The spirit chi here was even denser than in the Sky Martial Continent. Of course, not only was the spirit chi abundant, but there were also many dangers. During this period, Lin Xian had seen more than 1 king demonic beast appear. There was even one time that he felt a great pressure. It was an unknown demonic beast. It was extremely huge, and when it spread its wings, it covered the sky like a dark cloud. It had a terrifying and overflowing aura. Fortunately, Lin Xian and Chuyu were not ordinary people. The 2 of them concealed their auras and hid in the cave below. Only then did they manage to escape. According to Chuyu, this was an extremely terrifying king demonic beast. If one encountered it head-on, there was no chance of survival. Of course, this was not the strongest king demonic beast. It was said that some of the peerless king demonic beasts were extremely terrifying and could destroy a country with a raise of their hand. That was terrifying. Of course, That kind of terrifying existence usually did not come out. Moreover, on the side of the human race, there were various sacred grounds and ancient families. They would not allow that kind of demonic beast to harm the human world. 7 days later, Chu Yu and Lin Xian arrived near a mountain range. If we continue forward, we will be in the Danzong. Chu Yu looked at the majestic mountain range ahead and said with a smile, "Wait in the city at the foot of the mountain. I will go back and arrange for you to enter the sect. But let me say this first. With my strength, I can only let you enter as an ordinary disciple. Any higher, and I will not be able to." Ordinary disciple. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. That was enough. Chapter 1550. An ordinary disciple. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. That's enough. As long as he could enter the Danzong, Lin Xian would be satisfied. After all, he had come with a mission. He didn't know much about the Niwa of Gojoseon, and he also didn't know much about the 10,000 beast ding. That was because the 10,000 beast ding had only been obtained after the Niwa of Gojoseon left the Danzong. So, what exactly had happened to the Niwa of Gojoseon in the Danzong? Why had he been killed in the Tianwu continent? Lin Xian had to find out all of this himself. Then Chu Yu's figure flashed and flew directly to the Danzong. He first went to a city near the center of Danzong to wait. Lin Xian turned into a ray of sword light and flew quickly. However, he was extremely shocked. Near the Danzong, there were hundreds of cities densely packed together. It was like a small country, and this was only the periphery of the Danzong. In the depths of the mountain range, there were even more palaces and waterfalls. It was a celestial scene. Lin Xian withdrew his aura and quickly landed in a nearby city. He found an inn to rest. The next day, he received a letter from Chu Yu. The matter had been settled. Chu Yu gave him two choices. The first was to join the Danzong as a martial artist and be responsible for the sect security. This was a good starting position, but it wouldn't be too high in the end. The second choice was to join the sect as an alchemist. However, this choice required Lin Xian to pass some tests. He could only join the sect after he passed the tests. Lin Xian didn't hesitate and directly chose the second choice. After all, he also wanted to see what was so special about the Danzong's alchemy techniques. He was also an alchemist, and he had never stopped practicing alchemy. At this moment, his alchemy skills had already reached the Grandmaster realm, and he was able to refine Xian pills that surpassed the 9th grade. Only such profound pills were useful to King realm cultivators, whereas the medicinal pills below the profound pill, even if it was a 9th grade medicinal pill, were extremely useless to King realm cultivators. In addition to the letter, there was also a token that Lin Xian used to enter Danzong. With the token in hand, Lin Xian left the inn. Danzong was incomparably bright. The mountain range stretched as far as the eye could see. This was a colossus. It was a very powerful existence below the clan of the ancients and the peerless holy lands. Ordinary people would not dare to come here and behave atrociously. Of course, for those alchemists who wanted to join the Danzong, there was a special testing place. It was a valley at the foot of the mountain where dozens of palaces had been built. That place was used to test alchemists. When Danzong recruited disciples, they didn't look at one's current strength, but talent. He carefully took the token and said, "Wait here. I'll go and inform them." With that, the young man in the robe entered the valley again. As for the surrounding people, they began to whisper to each other. Some of them were even filled with shock. What's going on? He wasn't killed? That's right. This isn't Danzong style. Could it be? What other background does this kid have? The group of people discussed animatedly. They were very puzzled. However, not long after, the young man in the robe came out again. "You must be Lin Xian. Follow me. You are qualified to join Danzong, but we still have to test your aptitude." Hearing that, Lin Xian nodded. Chuyu had already explained this to him. Therefore, he took a step forward and followed the young man in the robe. What? He went in. He actually went in. The people behind him widened their eyes when they saw this scene. They originally thought that Lin Xian would be killed, but they did not expect him to be invited in. This was indeed beyond their expectations. Heavens, who exactly is this kid? How could he enter Danzong so easily? Look at the token he took out earlier. It should be Danzong's token. This kid's background is definitely not simple. Everyone was extremely envious. Chapter 1551. The valley wasn't large, but it was surrounded by palaces. Furthermore, there were quite a few spirit medicines growing inside. Many of them didn't exist in the Tianmu continent. However, Lin Xian recognized them. This was because he had the inheritance of Lord Alcohol and Niwa of Gojoseon. Thus, he had a very precise grasp of the knowledge of these herbs. There was basically no herb that he didn't recognize. Soon, he entered a palace. This palace had a total of 6 floors. Each floor was filled with books. Lin Xian glanced at them and found that most of them were books on alchemy. There were recipes, identification of herbs, and medicinal effects. There were also flames, pill furnaces, and so on. In short, everything related to alchemy was here. It could be said that there was a wealth of knowledge. Finally, Lin Xian followed the pill-robed youth to the 5th floor. There was a middle-aged man sitting there. At this moment, he was holding an ancient book in his hand and carefully reading it. The book was slightly yellowed, and the pages were somewhat curly. It was obvious that it had been flipped through countless times. However, at this moment, the middle-aged man was holding it in his hand, as if it were a treasure. Lin Xian looked ahead and was slightly surprised. This was because the flame aura on this person's body was very strong. It even surpassed the blue sky flames and the mysterious flame in Han Li's hand. There was no need to think about it. The other party should have grasped an extremely terrifying flame. In addition, he also felt an extremely powerful soul power from the other party. Even he was shocked by this soul force. The other party was definitely an alchemist, and a very terrifying one at that. He didn't expect to meet such a person as soon as he arrived in Danzong. "Martial uncle, I've brought him," the pill-robed youth said respectfully. "Yes, I know," the middle-aged man in front of him said indifferently. However, he didn't immediately raise his head and continued to read the ancient book in his hand. The pill-robed youth respectfully left, leaving only Lin Xian behind. After a while, the middle-aged man raised his head and closed the ancient book in his hand. With a wave of his hand, the ancient book floated to the side of the bookshelf. Then he picked up the command medallion on the table and asked with a flickering gaze, "You're Lin Xian?" "Yes." Lin Xian nodded. At this moment, he had already retracted his aura, making him look like an ordinary person. However, there was a very calm expression on his face. "Not bad. To be able to resist my pressure. It seems that your strength is definitely not ordinary. I heard about your situation from Chuyu. To be able to defeat Han Li, his battle prowess is truly astonishing. However, I'm very curious. If you were to enter the other sects, you would probably be treated very well. But why did you enter Danzong?" At the end of his speech, his gaze became sharp, like 2 sharp swords that wanted to see through Lin Xian. But Lin Xian was still as calm as ever. The great dragon sword soul within his body quickly revolved, offsetting this pressure. "Other than being a martial artist, I'm also an alchemist. Naturally, I want to join Danzong and learn more advanced alchemy techniques." "An alchemist?" The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes. To be honest, he couldn't believe that the other party was actually an alchemist. "Prove it?" Lin Xian nodded slightly. Then his soul power surged out. The middle-aged man was immediately shocked. He didn't expect that the other party's soul power would be so strong. Not bad. Normal people don't have such a strong soul. Kid, it seems that your talent is quite good. The middle-aged man nodded slightly and waved his hand. Suddenly, the wall in front of him flickered and quickly opened, revealing a painting. There were two yin-yang fishes, one white and one black. They blended together and were extremely profound. Take a closer look. How many changes can you see? As the middle-aged man's voice faded, the yin-yang diagram on the painting began to quickly spin. The black and white diagrams seemed to become black and white fishes that quickly swam away. 72. Lin Xian glanced at it and quickly said, "What about now?" The middle-aged man asked again. The yin-yang fishes in front of him were moving faster and faster. 360 types, 1,800, 7,200, 12,000 types. When Lin Xian said this number, the middle-aged man was stunned. He didn't expect the young man in front of him to be able to see so many changes. The yin-yang diagram in front of him was a treasure of the Dawn Zone. It was very special. Although it didn't have much attacking power, it could be used to test a martial artist's soul power. The yin-yang fishes had thousands of changes. A martial artist could only capture the changes through their soul power. The stronger the soul power, the more changes one could capture. Generally speaking, seeing 3,600 changes was enough to enter the Dawn Zone. With more than 5,000 changes, one would be considered a decent genius. Even better ones would see 7,000 to 8,000 changes. As for those with more than 10,000 changes, they would be considered a genius. This kind of person had extremely high soul power. It was impossible for normal martial artists to cultivate it, unless the other party had a cultivation technique that specialized in soul power or consumed some heavenly treasure. It was even rarer to be able to see 12,000 changes as soon as one entered the sect. It could be said that there were very few people. Therefore, Lin Xian's soul power really shocked him. Your soul power isn't bad. What about your knowledge of spiritual herbs? The middle-aged man flicked his finger, and 3 drops of liquid floated in the air. Can you tell what kind of spirit herbs these are made from? There are 42 types. There are purple spiral flowers, extreme spiritual herbs, Lin Xian said one by one with a calm expression. This made the middle-aged man even more shocked. His spiritual liquid was made with dozens of spiritual herbs. Normal people wouldn't be able to tell the difference, but this young man in front of him was able to recite them as if they were his family's treasures. It seemed that he was indeed an alchemist. Very good. You pass. The middle-aged man was very satisfied. With your talent and current strength, you can ignore the outer sect disciples and directly become an inner sect disciple. Thank you, Senior. Lin Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, you can now go to the inner sect to report. The middle-aged man flipped his hand and took out a new token. He handed it to Lin Xian. This is your identity token. Engrave your soul power on it. Don't lose it. After saying this, the middle-aged man sat down again. With a wave of his hand, the books on the bookshelf in the distance seemed to be carried by a pair of invisible hands and floated over again. The middle-aged man ignored Lin Xian and continued to read the ancient books. As for Lin Xian, he took the new inner sect disciple token and left the hall. When he went out, he found that the red-robed young man from before was still waiting outside. Oh, that. How do I get to that door? Lin Xian asked. Inner sect. The red-robed young man heard this and suddenly raised his head. His eyes were full of shock. You entered the inner sect. Lin Xian nodded and took out the token. Suddenly, the red-robed young man sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at Lin Xian as if he was looking at a monster. Chapter 1552. What's wrong? Is there something wrong? Lin Xian asked curiously. Senior brother, you're new here. You don't know what being an inner sect disciple means, the young man explained quickly. His attitude changed quickly, and he even addressed Lin Xian as senior brother. The disciples of the Danzong are divided into outer sect disciples, inner sect disciples, and core disciples. There are also personal disciples. However, there are very few personal disciples. There are only a few of them. Furthermore, the headmaster and the various elders no longer accept personal disciples. Therefore, personal disciples can be seen as special core disciples. From the outer sect to the inner sect, there is a threshold. Most of the outer sect disciples are free range, and they do some chores. They can be said to be the lowest level of the sect, but it's different for inner sect disciples. They are already considered elites. They enjoy a lot of resources and have the opportunity to listen to the teachings of the elders. It can be said that their treatment has improved a lot. However, it's very difficult to become an inner sect disciple. Every year, only a small number of outstanding outer sect disciples can become inner sect disciples. The competition is very fierce. Some people have been in the outer sect for more than 10 years, but they still haven't become inner sect disciples. Hearing this, Lin Xian nodded. He finally understood why this young man in front of him had such an attitude. He became an inner sect disciple the moment he entered. This starting point was far beyond everyone's imagination. Lin Xian nodded slightly, then asked, "Then what's the deal with core disciples? Tell me more about it." Core disciples are the elites of the elites. It's even more difficult to become a core disciple from an inner sect disciple. Some people have been in the inner sect for more than 100 years, but they still can't become a core disciple. Core disciples have a lot of power. They even have the right to kill. There are even some very powerful core disciples who are not weaker than some elders. It's just that they haven't made any great contributions to the sect, so they can't be made elders. However, their strength is very terrifying. I see. Lin Xian nodded, indicating that he understood. It seemed that the identity of an inner sect disciple was not guaranteed. He had to get the identity of a core disciple as soon as possible so that he could better interact with the Danzong. After all, the Niwa of Gojoseon was something that happened hundreds of years ago. Ordinary disciples would never be able to come into contact with this kind of secret. Only those in the upper echelons would be able to obtain clues. The young man in the red robes led Lin Xian to the inner sect area, but didn't enter. He said to Lin Xian, "Senior brother, I'm just an outer sect disciple. I can't enter the inner sect. You'll have to rely on yourself from now on, okay?" Lin Xian nodded and entered the inner sect alone. However, Lin Xian did not fumble around on his own. After entering the inner sect, there were specialized people to guide him. Very quickly, he was assigned to an independent courtyard. Every inner disciple could enjoy a mobile independent courtyard as their own residence. From the conversation, Lin Xian also learned that the treatment of core disciples was even better. They could even occupy a mountain peak and use it as their own residence. Some powerful core disciples could even enslave outer sect disciples and order inner sect disciples to do things for them. It could be said that he had a lot of power. Lin Xian chose a courtyard and stayed there. He did not act immediately. Instead, he cultivated silently to accumulate his strength. Just like that, he stayed in the inner sect. On the other hand, outside Danzong, there was a test going on for the past few days. Countless outer sect disciples were trying their best to enter the inner sect. Among them, there was a beautiful young girl who also wanted to take the test. The young girl was beautiful, but her expression was a little arrogant. She raised her chin like a proud little princess. At that moment, there were many young men around her. "There are 10 spots to enter the inner sect this time. I'll definitely get one," the young girl said proudly. Of course, the surrounding warriors quickly flattered her. Beside her, there were a few arrogant disciples. They were also elites of the outer sect and were very confident of entering the inner sect. Among them, there was a young man in a red robe. He looked at the young girl and smiled. That's for sure. Sister Ting will enter together. However, after entering the inner sect, you'll have to rely on your brother. When the time comes, don't forget about me. Hearing the compliments around her, the young girl called Fong Ting became even more proud. Of course, don't worry, my brother is very powerful in the inner sect. After we enter, I'll ask him to take care of you. When the surrounding disciples heard that, they were envious. They knew that Fong Ting was very powerful. At such a young age, she had become a top outer sect disciple and was about to enter the inner sect. Not only that, she had an even more powerful brother who was in the inner sect. It could be said that no one dared to bully her. She would probably be a proud daughter of the heavens if she entered the inner sect. Everyone was discussing animatedly. However, at that moment, the results of the test were released. Immediately, everyone craned their necks and looked nervously. The young girl called Fong Ting also became nervous. To be honest, although she was quite talented, there were many people in the outer sect who were more talented and stronger than her. Therefore, she was not completely confident. However, when she saw that her name was ranked 10th, her delicate little face immediately revealed a smug smile. 10th, although it was a little worse than she had imagined, she was still very satisfied. That was because she knew that there were only 10 spots to enter the inner sect this time. In other words, as long as she entered the top 10, she would definitely be able to enter the inner sect. Ha ha ha! That's great! I've finally entered the inner sect. One after another, exclamations of surprise sounded. Obviously, these were the top 10 disciples. Soon, the outer sect elder walked over quickly with a scroll in his hand. As for Fong Ting and the other top 10 disciples, they all had smug smiles on their faces as they quickly walked out and stood in front. They knew that it was time to announce the results. Sure enough, the outer sect elder slowly said, "Next, I will announce your candidates to enter the inner sect. Huang Kai, Xiao Dong, Qin Feng." The outer sect elder read out 9 names in a row. They were all disciples ranked in the top 9. Fong Ting listened with a smug expression. However, when it was her turn, she suddenly stopped. The outer sect elder slowly put away the scroll and said in a deep voice, "From today onwards, the 9 of you will be inner sect disciples. After entering the inner sect, you must cultivate well. You must not slack off. Yes, disciple obeys." Qin Feng and the other 9 disciples nodded respectfully. The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. What was going on? There were only 9 people. Why were there only 9? Fong Ting quickly said, "Elder, why didn't you read my name?" Chapter 1553. What's going on? There are only 9 people. Why are there only 9? Everyone was puzzled and puzzled. Fong Ting quickly said, "Elder, why didn't you read my name?" After the outer sect elder heard that, he said in a deep voice, "There are only 9 spots to enter the inner sect this time. So only the top 9 will be chosen." 9? How is that possible? Fong Ting looked anxious. Didn't we say that there were a total of 10 spots? Why is there 1 less? That's right, Elder. Haven't the spots been decided before? Qin Feng, who had become an inner sect disciple, was also puzzled. There were indeed 10 spots before, but a few days ago, a disciple came to join Danzong and became an inner sect disciple directly. So naturally, there will be 1 less spot for you. What? Someone became an inner sect disciple directly? Hearing this, everyone was shocked. One had to know that they knew the rules of Danzong. Usually, those who came were outer sect disciples. It was rare to hear someone become an inner sect disciple directly. Impossible. Damn it. How is that possible? Fong Ting screamed. She was originally full of confidence and thought that she would definitely be able to enter the inner sect this time. However, she did not expect that something like this would happen. This is against the rules. I'm in the top 10, so I should enter the inner sect, Fong Ting said quickly. However, the outer sect elder snorted coldly. Noisy, is this a place for you to behave atrociously? This is the sect's decision. What are you unhappy about? At the end of his sentence, his voice was extremely cold and even emitted a powerful aura. No, no. Feeling this aura, Fong Ting was scared silly and quickly knelt on the ground. Seeing this, the outer sect elder said in a deep voice, with your talent, you will definitely be able to enter the inner sect next time after cultivating for a period of time. This time, you can go back first. After saying that, he waved his hand and took Qin Feng and the other 9 inner sect disciples away. Only the shocked crowd was left. Damn it, this is too despicable. I have to find out who replaced me. I'm going to tear him into pieces. Fong Ting knelt on the ground and screamed crazily. The surrounding martial artists felt their scalps go numb. That was because they knew that the disciple who became an inner disciple was going to be in trouble. Fong Ting's brother was an extremely terrifying figure in the inner sect. With him around, he could kill anyone. For the past few days, Lin Xian had been cultivating in his room, but he would come out from time to time. In the vicinity of his courtyard, there were many spiritual herbs that he needed to take care of. He would hand over 70% of these spiritual herbs to the sect, and the remaining 30% would be his reward. This was an inner disciple. If he wanted to be promoted to a core disciple, he would only need to pay half of it. In the past few days, while Lin Xian was taking care of the spirit herbs, he also got to know some of the surrounding inner sect disciples. They were familiar with each other. One day, while Lin Xian was cultivating, someone suddenly knocked on his door. Lin Xian immediately opened his eyes. He stood up and opened the door. The person who knocked on the door was his neighbor. He was also an inner disciple, and his name was Zhou Hai. In addition to Zhou Hai, there were 2 or 3 other figures, all of whom were inner disciples nearby. What's the matter? Lin Xian asked. Usually, no one would disturb him during the day. Now that the other party was here, it meant that something had happened. There's a mission for us. Mission? Hearing that, Lin Xian frowned. He naturally knew that to become a disciple of the Danzong, he had to complete some sect missions. However, he did not expect that the mission would come so soon. Yes, it's like this. The cities near us have been losing spirit herbs recently. Sometimes there are even obvious riots. It's obvious that it's man-made. According to various investigations, we finally found out that it's the people from the 10,000 Poisons sect. Now, the sect has issued a mission to kill the people from the 10,000 Poisons sect. Many inner sect disciples have already taken action because the reward this time is too good. Every time you kill a martial artist from the 10,000 Poisons sect, you can get 1 sect contribution. 10 sect contribution points can be exchanged for a high-grade alchemy book or a top-grade spiritual herb. Those spirit herbs are not the ones we planted. They are all extremely precious. Every one of them is worth a lot. It seems that the sect is really angry this time. Yes, especially those high-level alchemy books. Even the core disciples are tempted. I think many of them will go now. We want to go too, so we came to call you. How about it? Do you want to go together? Zhou Hai and the others asked. Oh, okay, let's go take a look. Lin Xian nodded. He had nothing to do anyway. He could also get some spirit herbs and alchemy books by killing some of the people from the 10,000 Poisons sect. He was happy. All of Lin Xian's belongings were on him, so there was nothing much to pack. He left with Zhou Hai and the others and flew to the city at the foot of the mountain. At the same time, Fong Ting was also contacting her brother in the inner sect through letters. Fong Li, Fong Ting's brother, was also an inner sect disciple. Moreover, he was a very powerful inner sect disciple. It could be said that everyone in the inner sect knew of Fong Li. When he found out that his sister's spot had been taken, and she could not enter the inner sect, his face immediately darkened. "Investigate. Who took my sister's spot?" Fong Li said coldly to a few of his underlings beside him. "Don't worry, young Master Fong. We'll investigate now." These followers were also inner sect disciples. They quickly went out to investigate. Soon, they returned. "We found some information. That kid is called Lin Xian. He came 5 days ago. He did become an inner sect disciple directly, but we can't find out the reason. How strong is that kid?" Fong Li asked in a deep voice. "I don't know about his alchemy skills, but according to those who have seen him, he's only a 1-star king." 1-star king. Hearing this, Fong Li's frown deepened. The people around him sneered. How can he become an inner sect disciple directly with such a weak cultivation? Could that kid be an alchemy genius? Impossible. If he's really an alchemy genius, we should have known the moment he came in. But now he's keeping a low profile. I'm afraid there's something fishy going on. Fong Li snorted. No matter who he is or how he came in, he must pay the price for taking my sister's spot. Let's go. Let's see what that Lin Xian is capable of. Fong Li snorted, then ran toward Lin Xian's courtyard. Along with him were a few other inner disciples from before. Chapter 1554. Along the way, many inner sect disciples saw this, and their expressions changed. Isn't that Fong Li? Why does he look so pale? Where are they going? They don't look friendly. Oh, my God. Someone dares to provoke Fong Li? Isn't he afraid of death? I heard that someone took Fong Li's sister's place in the inner sect. I think Fong Li is going to find trouble with the other party. What? Is there such a thing? I think so. There is indeed a new disciple in the inner sect. I think his name is Lin Xian. Look at them. They are indeed going to Lin Xian's courtyard. The surrounding inner sect disciples are whispering. When they saw this, they followed them. Fong Li and his group stopped in front of Lin Xian's courtyard. This is the place. Fong Li looked ahead with a cold gaze. Yes, young Master Fong, this is the place. Wait, I'll get that kid to come out. One of the inner sect disciples said. Then he took a step forward and shouted coldly, Lin, get out here. His voice was like thunder. It turned into a sharp sword and quickly spread inside. However, it was quiet inside. There was no response at all, let alone a person. Humph! How dare you put on airs in front of me? Seeing that there was no response, the inner sect disciple was very unhappy. He snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Suddenly, a powerful force pushed forward. With a boom, the door and wall in front of him exploded. Seeing this, everyone was shocked. Is he going to do it himself? However, after waiting for a while, no one came out. Soon, a few inner sect disciples entered the courtyard at lightning speed and checked it out. Then they came out and said, Young Master Fong, there is no one inside. No one? Hearing this, Fong Li frowned and asked coldly, Do any of you know where that kid went? Whoever provides me with the clue, I'll give him a top-notch spiritual herb. Immediately, someone ran out and said, That kid with the surname Lin went to take a mission. The one from the 10,000 Poison Sect. A mission from the 10,000 Poison Sect. Hearing this, Fong Li narrowed his eyes, and a cold smile appeared on his face. Then, with a flip of his palm, he took out a stalk of spirit grass and threw it to the man. How dare you take my younger sister's spot? No matter where you run, you won't be able to escape death. It just so happens that I'm also going to accept the mission from the 10,000 Poison Sect. I'll take care of that brat while I'm at it. Fong Li sneered and left with his men. Upon seeing this, the surrounding inner disciples shook their heads and sighed. Sigh, that Lin Xian is too unlucky. He actually offended Fong Li, that's right. With Fong Li's strength and methods, that kid definitely won't be able to gain any advantage. That's not all. If they meet him outside this time, that kid might lose his life. When the time comes, Fong Li will kill that kid and push the blame to the 10,000 Poisons sect. Even if the sect finds out anything, they won't care. Forget it. This matter has nothing to do with us. Let's not bother about it. The group of people left one after another. At the foot of the mountain, cities surrounded the mountain like stars. Although only a few days had passed, Lin Xian discovered that the appearance of this place had changed. Among them, many cities had been attacked. The city walls had collapsed, the houses were damaged, and deep holes had appeared on the ground. Not only that, but there was also a green mist in the surroundings that contained a deadly poison. Even kings had to be careful when dealing with it. According to Zhou Tian's introduction, this was a unique technique of the 10,000 Poisons sect. This green mist was extremely terrifying. It was condensed from many king-level demonic beasts. It could be said that it was extremely powerful. Anyone below the king level would definitely die if they touched it. As for king-level cultivators, if they accidentally inhaled it, they would lose a lot of their strength and might even be heavily injured. Therefore, they had to be careful when fighting against the 10,000 Poisons sect. Damn, these people from the 10,000 Poisons sect are really despicable. Yeah, just this poisonous mist alone has consumed a lot of my spiritual energy. If we weren't kings, we probably wouldn't have been able to stay in this poisonous mist for too long. An inner disciple's face was gloomy. Obviously, the poisonous mist in the surroundings was a huge burden on him. These people were Lin Xian and the others. They had appeared in the city. Among them, Zhou Hai looked at Lin Xian's calm expression and asked in confusion, "Brother Lin, could it be that you're not affected at all? Heavens, your spiritual energy is too strong. Isn't it?" Indeed, there were countless sword qi revolving around Lin Xian's body. Every sword qi was extremely sharp, and the poisonous mist couldn't get close to him at all. Zhou Hai and the others also used their own methods, but their expressions weren't as calm as Lin Xian's. Among them, Zhou Hai and another disciple called Yang Song were the strongest. Both of them were 2-star kings. The remaining 2 were late-stage 1-star kings. The 4 of them walked carefully while Lin Xian checked the surroundings. "By the way, Brother Lin, are you a swordsman? This sword qi is too sharp, isn't it?" While the others were still envious, Lin Xian frowned and said in a deep voice, "I seem to have found something strange." "Strange? What is it?" Zhou Hai and the others were puzzled. They were also alchemists, and their soul power was very strong. However, they didn't find anything strange at all. However, looking at Lin Xian's expression, it didn't seem like he was faking it. Therefore, they were very puzzled. "Let's go. Follow me." With a wave of his hand, Lin Xian dashed forward. Although Zhou Hai and the others were puzzled, they still followed him. Soon they left the city and entered the primeval forest. After flying for a while, Lin Xian's body swayed and flew down. Seeing this, Zhou Hai and the others also descended. Then they widened their eyes in disbelief, because there were countless corpses on the ground. However, most of the corpses had turned into white bones, and the remaining ones were rotting. Obviously, they were all poisoned to death. These are the warriors from those cities. It seems that they have fought with the 10,000 Poisons sect. The others gasped. The distance was too far. Ordinary people couldn't sense it at all. Even they couldn't sense it. However, Lin Xian seemed to have known it all along. Just how strong was his soul force? Lin Xian looked at the scene and frowned. What a strong poison. Not only had the corpses rotted, but the entire ground had also turned into a land of death. There was no trace of life. Furthermore, the poisonous gas would spread out and gradually fuse into the void to form a poisonous fog. It wouldn't be long before the whole place became a land of death. Not even a blade of grass would grow. Zhou Hai frowned. He summoned a white mouse from his king's domain and fed it a pill. Suddenly, the white mouse shone brightly. Its black little nose twitched as if it was looking for something. Then, it ran forward like a bolt of lightning. Chapter 1555. Zhou Hai was overjoyed and called out, "Brother Lin, come quickly. We've found their tracks." "You found their tracks?" Lin Xian was also surprised. He didn't expect Fong Ping to have such a trick up his sleeve. His figure flashed, and he followed behind. At this moment, the crimson dragon in his sleeve explained, "This is a spirit-seeking mouse. It's a very intelligent beast with a very developed sense of smell. It can track people down. So that's how it is." Lin Xian nodded. He finally understood how Fong Ping was able to find the 10,000 poison sex tracks. In front of them was a continuous mountain range. The peaks were thousands of feet high and looked like divine swords standing on the ground. When Lin Xian and the others arrived, they found that the spirit-seeking mouse was no longer flying. It seemed to have lost its way. "What's going on? We lost them?" Zhou Hai frowned. Obviously, he didn't expect his trick to fail. Lin Xian also frowned. He used his soul power to investigate, but he didn't find anyone around. However, he felt uneasy. At this moment, the Crimson Dragon transmitted, "Kid, be careful. I'm afraid it's a trap." Lin Xian nodded and was about to say something. However, all of a sudden, countless black shadows appeared all around them and surrounded them like ghosts. Sinister laughter resounded in the surroundings. It was like the laughter of evil spirits, causing one's scalp to go numb. "Who is it? Come out!" Zhou Hai and the others shouted. At the same time, their bodies shone with light to defend themselves. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes in surprise. Good trick. He didn't even detect their presence. It seems that these people from the 10,000 Poisons sect have some unusual tricks up their sleeves. Ha! I didn't expect it to be a few kids. You actually dared to chase us here. I have to say, you're really bold. A cold voice sounded. Oh no, it's the 10,000 Poisons sect. Zhou Hai's face changed. Everyone, be careful. Then he roared, "Humph! Remnants of the 10,000 Poisons sect. You've harmed the common people. How dare you come near my Danzong? You're courting death. I didn't expect you to be from Danzong. If that's the case, then all the more reason I can't let you live." Before he finished speaking, a green shadow flew out quickly. That green light is too terrifying. It's covering the sky and covering the earth. It's like a raging sea. It's heading straight for Zhou Hai. Scram! Zhou Hai roared and punched out. The fiery red fist carried a resplendent light that illuminated the surroundings as it quickly slammed into the green light. Boom! A terrifying sound rang out. More than half of the green light was melted by the fiery red fist. However, Zhou Hai did not have it easy either. He took 5 steps back, and the blood in his body was boiling. There was nothing he could do about it. That green attack was simply too terrifying. It wasn't powerful, but its strength was strange, and it even carried poisonous gas. Fortunately, he had been careful in defending himself, so the other party didn't succeed. I didn't expect you to be so strong. You actually survived my green demonic hand. But kid, don't be too proud. I only used half of my strength just now. This time, I'll use my full strength. Let's see if you can still block it." The cold voice rang out again with a strong sense of mockery. Then, an extremely violent energy surged out and slammed towards Zhou Hai. Zhou Hai's face changed drastically. The previous attack was still too much for him to handle. However, now that the other party had used his full strength, the aura made him feel suffocated. Seeing that Zhou Hai was about to be swallowed by the green palm, Lin Xian made his move at this critical moment. He waved his hand, and a huge sword chi quickly formed. It shone brightly like a divine rainbow and quickly slashed forward. A terrifying murderous aura shot up to the sky. Boom! In an instant, the green palm was cut off by the sword chi. Not only that, the poisonous gas that filled the sky was also completely eliminated. Thank you, Brother Lin. Seeing that Lin Xian had repelled the other party, Zhou Hai heaved a sigh of relief and thanked him gratefully. The others were also extremely shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian's battle prowess to be so powerful. At this moment, the cold voice rang out again. I didn't expect there to be another expert. But, kid, since you dared to offend me, you're definitely dead this time. The sound wave turned into a green ocean and spread out in all directions, bringing with it a strange, poisonous gas. Damn, the 10,000 poison sect. Zhou Hai gritted his teeth, then quickly took out a few pills and distributed them to Lin Xian and the others. This is the green spirit pill. It can cure hundreds of poisons. Take it, and you can resist the poison of the 10,000 poison sect. Lin Xian took it and smelled it. Then he nodded slightly and swallowed the pill. However, Zhou Hai and the others did not look too good. This was because from the previous attack, the other party was at least a 3-star king. They had no way of resisting such an expert. However, they were more shocked by Lin Xian's strength. Brother Lin, are you a 3-star king? Did you hide your strength? They asked in bewilderment. Lin Xian smiled and shook his head. No, I just used some secret techniques. However, it's not difficult to resist a 3-star king. Humph, you're really boasting shamelessly. The cold voice rang out again. It's not difficult to resist a 3-star king? Kid, it seems like you don't know your limits. Fine, I'll kill you today and let you know the power of a 3-star king. As these words were spoken, countless figures appeared in the surroundings. A middle-aged man walked out from the front. He was wearing a blue robe, and his face was pale and beardless. Chapter 1556. The voice was extremely terrifying. Not only did Zhou Hai and the others' expressions change, but even the middle-aged man from the 10,000 poisons sect looked gloomy. Lin Xian's heart skipped a beat. He squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. This energy was too terrifying. It seemed to have surpassed that of a 3-star king. Could it be a 4-star king? Thinking of this, Lin Xian frowned. He didn't attack again. Instead, he watched quietly. Even a 4-star king was difficult for him now. If the other party was from the 10,000 poison sect, then he could only leave with Zhou Hai and the others. Soon, the figure arrived and floated in the sky. He was like a god of war, looking down. It was a youth with a cold expression. His eyes were like lightning, making people's hearts tremble. A fiery red cauldron floated above his head. 2 fire dragons were carved on it, circling around each other. Humph! How dare the 10,000 poison sect behave so atrociously near my dawn zone? You really don't know what's good for you. The mysterious youth's cold voice sounded. Who are you? Below, the middle-aged man from the 10,000 poison sect had a grave expression. The martial artists behind him also frowned. They could feel how powerful the other party's aura was. Danzong's core disciple, Lu Chao, the mysterious youth said coldly, I've already answered your question. You can die now. In the sky, the mysterious youth waved his hand. Immediately, the red cauldron above him emitted a bright light. It was like a sea of fire, and it was rapidly rolling down. Countless flames soared into the sky, piercing through the sea of clouds and instantly enveloping all the martial artists from the 10,000 poison sect. Ah! Miserable screams rang out. The martial artists from the 10,000 poisons sect tried their best to resist. However, it was useless. Even the blue-robed middle-aged man used his king's domain to try and escape. However, Lu Chao coldly snorted. He pointed his finger, and flames soared into the sky, turning into a fire dragon that instantly swallowed the middle-aged man. In an instant, all the martial artists from the 10,000 Poison sect were killed. Even the surrounding poison gas was evaporated by the sea of fire, leaving not a trace behind. Amazing! They were all killed in an instant. Zhou Hai and the others widened their eyes in disbelief. Lin Xian was also extremely surprised. His opponent's strength had exceeded his expectations. He was indeed an expert. Most likely, his strength had already surpassed that of a 3-star king. Furthermore, from the other party's words, he seemed to be a core disciple. Is this the strength of a core disciple? Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and carefully sized up his opponent. Greetings, senior brother. Zhou Hai and the others shouted respectfully. At this time, the sound of something breaking through the air came from afar. A few silhouettes flew over at lightning speed. They were all young people wearing Danzong uniforms. It seemed like they were also Danzong disciples. This time, there were a total of 5 or 6 people, both men and women, and their strength was not weak. When these people arrived and saw the scene below, Jing immediately smiled and said, Senior Martial Brother Lu is indeed powerful. He killed nearly 110,000 Poison Sect's martial artists with a raise of his hand. Such means are heaven-defying. That was because Senior Brother Lu was also a very powerful existence among the core disciples. However, these people from the 10,000 Poison sect were too despicable. How dare they come to Danzong and behave so atrociously? Moreover, from the looks of it, there were quite a few of them. Could it be that they were plotting something? The new disciples quickly conversed. At this time, the core disciple called Lu Chao looked down and said in a deep voice, Are you all inner disciples? Yes, Zhou Hai said quickly. Thank you for your help, Senior Martial Brother Lu. Lu Chao nodded and said again, You should go back. This time, the 10,000 Poisons' sex strength is formidable. You can't fight against them. Okay, we'll go back now. Zhou Hai and the others nodded. They knew that Lu Chao was right. This time, the 10,000 Poisons' sex strength was very strong, and they had a large number of people. It would be very dangerous for them to stay here. Lin Xian, let's go. Zhou Hai looked to the side and said quickly, Okay. Lin Xian nodded and turned to leave. However, at this time, a young man in the sky frowned and asked coldly, Lin Xian, you're the new inner disciple Lin Xian? There was a hint of coldness in his voice. Lin Xian stopped and looked back. Zhou Hai and the others were also puzzled and stopped. He looked back and saw a handsome man standing there. However, his eyes were very cold and even had a hint of killing intent. This made him very confused. The other party wanted to kill him, but he didn't know him at all. At this time, the other disciples asked, Fong Li, what's going on? Do you know him? It's nothing, just some personal matters. Fong Li explained. Then he looked to the front and said respectfully, Senior Martial Brother Lu, I have some matters to settle. I'd like to stay here for a while. Okay. Lu Chao nodded. Then his body flashed, and he turned into a rainbow and left. It seemed that he was going to hunt down the other 10,000 Poison sect martial artists. When the remaining people saw this, they also followed behind. At this time, only Fong Li was left in the sky. Suddenly, Fong Li's body sank and he landed on the ground. Opposite him, Zhou Hai and the others frowned. They couldn't understand why Fong Li would stay. However, judging from his eyes, it couldn't be anything good. Therefore, they hurriedly sent a voice transmission, Brother Lin, be careful. Fong Li is a big shot in the inner sect, but he's not to be trifled with. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. He really didn't know what Fong Li's intentions were. This was because he hadn't interacted with anyone in the past few days in Danzong. It was impossible for him to have a grudge with anyone. In front of him, Fong Li sneered, "Lin Xian, how dare you steal my sister's spot? Your sister?" Lin Xian frowned even harder. He didn't know this guy's sister at all. "Ridiculous." Lin Xian snorted and turned to leave. He didn't have time to waste with someone like this. Trying to leave? Fong Li sneered from behind. Then his body flashed, and he appeared in front of everyone, blocking their way. At the same time, a terrifying aura surged from his body. It was very sharp. "Fong Li, what are you doing? I'm warning you, don't mess around." Zhou Hai said quickly, "Mess around? Who do you think you are? How dare you control me? Get lost." Fong Li snorted and threw a punch. Instantly, Zhou Hai was pushed back. Bang, bang, bang. Zhou Hai was pushed back, cracking the ground. His expression was very ugly. When the others saw this, they also roared angrily. "Fong Li, although you're a 3-star challenger, we're not weak either. If you push us too far, we'll fight to the death. Fight to the death. Just the few of you? You're not worthy of me killing you." Fong Li said coldly, "As long as you get lost and don't interfere, I won't kill you. However, I won't let this guy go today." Then he stared coldly at Lin Xian again. Chapter 1557. Lin Xian frowned when he saw this. "Do I know you?" "You don't know me, but my sister could have entered the inner sect, but you took her spot. Tell me, how can I let you go?" So that's what happened. Zhou Hai and the others' faces darkened when they heard this, but Lin Xian understood. He did become an inner sect disciple directly, but it was the sect's decision and had nothing to do with him. As for taking Fong Li's sister's spot, he had no idea. But now the other party didn't explain at all and just showed killing intent towards him. This was completely looking down on him. However, Lin Xian was not afraid of a mere 3-star king. So he said coldly, "Becoming an inner sect disciple is the sect's decision. If you have any opinions, you can tell the sect directly. It's useless to talk to me. Of course, if you insist on finding trouble with me, I don't mind teaching you a lesson." "Teach me a lesson?" Fong Li was stunned. Then he sneered. "Ha ha, what a shameless boast. Kid, I think water must have entered your brain. How dare you say such a thing?" He sneered disdainfully. As far as he was concerned, Lin Xian was only a 1-star King Realm cultivator. Such a person definitely wouldn't be strong. Fong Li was a 3-star king, an extremely powerful existence among the inner sect disciples. He had many secret techniques in his hands, and he also had a very unique flame. It could be said that he was incomparably powerful. He only needed to move his finger, and he would be able to squash the other party to death. However, Fong Li still dared to boast about teaching him a lesson? What a joke! "Kid, I don't care what background you have, and I don't know how you entered the inner sect. Since you dared to take my sister's spot, you must die. Remember, in your next life, be careful. Don't provoke people you can't afford to provoke." Fong Li's voice was cold. Boundless killing intent surged from his body, forming a murderous aura that pierced through heaven and earth. "What? You dare to kill? Fong Li, don't you know the sect rules?" Zhou Hai roared. Danzong's sect rules state that disciples of the same sect are not allowed to kill each other. So, even if there was a grudge, it was usually just a lesson. But now, Fong Li wants to kill Lin Xian. This is too shocking. What's the big deal? A bunch of idiots. Anyway, you are here for a mission. Even if you can't return, others will think that you were killed by the 10,000 Poison sect, so they won't suspect me. Kid, go to Hell's Die. Fong Li roared angrily and charged towards Lin Xian. It was a terrifying martial art right from the start. Purple tiger beast fire. A ball of purple flames appeared on Fong Li's body, burning fiercely and releasing a terrifying aura. This flame was refined demon's Fong. Li was refined demon. Now that Fong Li was using it, it was even more terrifying. Purple tiger transformed form, Fong. Tiger. Single quote, TT. It was as if a real demon's king was emitting a terrifying aura. Wherever it passed, the void would quickly crumble. In an instant, it was in front of Lin Xian. On the other hand, Lin Xian's figure flashed, and his speed was like that of a ghost. He instantly disappeared from where he stood and appeared on the other side. He dodged it. Seeing this, Zhou Hai and the others were overjoyed. But in the next moment, they exclaimed. They realized that the purple tiger did not disappear. Instead, it pounced on Lin Xian again. The monstrous flames caused the void to distort incomparably. Humph, it's useless. Kid, you can't escape. This is my origin source flame. It won't stop until I kill you. Fong Li sneered from afar. Although Lin Xian's speed surprised him, he did not care. He was very confident in himself. On the other hand, Zhou Hai and the others were worried. Damn Fong Li. This guy really wanted to kill Lin Xian. Lin Xian would be in danger. If that's the case, don't blame me. Lin Xian stopped dodging. Instead, he attacked quickly. He was not afraid of trouble. Since the other party wanted to kill him, he had to kill the other party to prevent future trouble. Azure Dragon Break. A black demonic sword appeared in his hand. Then he stabbed with it. This was a move that he had just learned. When he used it, its power was terrifying. The sword chi surged and turned into a black dragon. It roared and surged. The black dragon shone like a real divine dragon. It stirred up thousands of waves and moved quickly in the void. There were countless sword radiances on his body. They pierced through the sea of clouds. Boom. The black sword chi collided with the purple tiger's shadow. There was an earth-shattering explosion. The terrifying energy shook heaven and earth. However, the explosion disappeared in an instant. All the energy, including the purple tiger, was destroyed by the black sword chi and disappeared without a trace. Zhou Hai and the others had already retreated to a distance to watch the battle. They could not resist the energy at all. What? He blocked it? How is that possible? Fong Li was shocked. He could not believe it. Fong Li was only a one-star king. He was a three-star king. The difference in strength between the two was like heaven and earth. But he actually managed to block his attack. How is that possible? He can't believe it. In the distance, Zhou Hai and the others were also shocked. Although they had seen Lin Xian fight against the 10,000 poison sex experts, they thought that it was a secret technique that would not last long. But now, Lin Xian was able to block Fong Li's attack with ease. This made them extremely shocked. They even discovered that this was not something that could be achieved through secret arts. Perhaps Lin Xian was truly powerful. Thinking of this, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Fong Li's expression was terrifyingly gloomy. His eyes were like lightning as he stared ahead. Damn it, that's impossible. How did you do it? Could it be that you took some pill that stimulated energy? Yes, that must be it. Otherwise, how could you block my attack? As an alchemist, he naturally knew about this kind of pill that could instantly increase a martial artist's strength. However, it would cause great damage to the body. In his opinion, Lin Xian must have taken such a pill to be able to fight against him. Humph, it's just a pill that uses external force. How can it compare to me? Next, I'll let you know my true strength. Fong Li comforted himself. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. Shameless idiot. With that, his body flashed, and he charged forward again. The 9 darkness demonic sword in his hand emitted a monstrous power. He swung it down quickly, and it exploded like thunder. The terrifying sword light slashed toward Fong Li. Chapter 1558. You are courting death. Fong Li was enraged. He did not expect Lin Fan to take the initiative to attack him. This was undoubtedly a provocation. Thousand Beasts' fist. He waved his fists, and countless purple flames danced. They formed thousands of fist shadows and charged toward Lin Xian. Every fist was the size of a mountain. They carried a monstrous force and shattered the void. Bang, bang, bang. The sword chi and fist shadows collided, and the violent energy destroyed the entire sky. However, Lin Xian's sword chi was too powerful. The 9 darkness demonic sword slashed down like a death scythe and sliced all the fist shadows apart. In an instant, the purple flames in the sky were extinguished and nothing was left. However, the black sword chi charged toward Fong Li again. Before the sword chi landed, the terrifying murderous intent pierced through the void. What? How is this possible? Fong Li was scared out of his wits when he saw this. That was his ultimate skill. How could it be so easily broken by someone else? He could not believe it. When he felt the chilling, murderous intent, his heart raced. At this moment, he finally knew that Lin Fan was stronger than him. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and retreated quickly like a purple ray of light. What? He retreated. Fong Li retreated. In the distance, Zhou Hai and the rest widened their eyes in disbelief when they saw this. Fong Li was a true 3-star king and was extremely powerful. Everyone in the inner sect knew about him. Moreover, his flame was even more terrifying. It was at the Demon King level. But now, Fong Li had actually retreated, and from the looks of it, he was in such a sorry state. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, they would not have believed it. Fong Li retreated quickly like a purple rainbow. However, the black sword chi was even more violent and faster. Not only that, the black sword chi had already firmly locked onto him. It was like a black dragon roaring in the air. Fong Li could not dodge it. At this critical moment, Fong Li gritted his teeth and quickly took out a purple cauldron to block the black sword chi. Clang! The sound of metal clashing was heard, and the entire void cracked. Although Fong Li used the purple cauldron to block the sword chi, the powerful force still sent him flying and smashed a few mountains. Fong Li screamed crazily as blood splattered everywhere. Impossible! This is impossible! Damn it! How did you do it? He was truly crazy. Beside him was a sea of purple flames, which formed a king's domain, burning the mountains, trees, and forests. His face was hideous like a demon. He didn't dare to believe it. However, Lin Xian was like a flickering shadow, instantly appearing beside him. The demonic sword in his hand quickly stabbed down. Pung! Fong Li was sent flying again. God knows how many of his bones were broken. This time, he received serious internal injuries and could barely get up. However, when he saw Lin Xian walking towards him again, he immediately screamed, because he realized that the other party really wanted to kill him. Stop! Damn it! You dare to kill me? Do you know who I am? Fong Li screamed. Lin Xian snorted coldly. What does it have to do with me who you are? I don't know you, yet you came to kill me for no reason at all. Do you think I'll let you go? Hearing this, Fong Li's face turned ugly. He quickly said, I was wrong about what happened before. I'll apologize to you. Can you let me go? In the distance, Zhou Hai and the others couldn't believe their ears. The arrogant Fong Li was begging for mercy? This was simply too unbelievable. However, Lin Xian snorted coldly. I don't like to leave threats behind, so you must die. Then he slowly raised the 9 darkness demonic sword. You're courting death, kid. Don't you know that I'm senior brother Lu Chao's man? If you dare to touch me, senior brother Lu Chao won't let you go." Fong Li roared crazily as if he had gone mad. Hearing this, Zhou Hai and the others were shocked. They didn't expect Fong Li to be on Lu Chao's side. One had to know that Lu Chao was a core disciple, and his cultivation had reached the 4-star king level. He was extremely terrifying. If he was angry, he could kill any inner disciple in front of everyone without being punished by the faction. It could be said that in their eyes, Lu Chao was a supreme existence. Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He had already witnessed the methods of that core disciple, Lu Chao. Seeing Lin Xian hesitate, Fong Li sneered again. "How about it, kid? Are you scared now? Kneel down and kowtow to me now, and I might spare your life. Otherwise, when I tell senior brother Lu Chao, you'll die." "Shut up," Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his sword, he chopped off Fong Li's head. Poof! Blood spurted out as Fong Li fell. Even in death, he couldn't believe that Lin Xian would dare to kill him. Wasn't he afraid of the revenge of the core disciples? Lin Xian said coldly, "You don't have to threaten me. If he dares to cause trouble for me, I'll kill him too." With that, he waved his hand, and the black 9 darkness flame gushed out, burning the corpse on the ground. However, he kept the storage ring and the purple pill cauldron. The cauldron was able to resist his sword chi, so it must be of a high grade. As a powerful inner disciple, Fong Li must have many treasures in his storage ring. On the other hand, Zhou Hai and the others were stunned. They didn't expect Lin Xian to really kill Fong Li. They couldn't believe that Fong Li had been killed. "Brother Lin, you—" Zhou Hai and the others rushed over. They were dumbfounded when they saw the scene on the ground. Lin Xian shook his head. "I had no choice. If I didn't kill him, I don't know when he would kill me." "Don't worry, the sect won't be able to find out." As he said, "As long as you don't say anything, no one will know that I did it. They'll definitely think that the 10,000 Poison sect did it. Don't worry, Brother Lin. We won't say anything." Zhou Hai and the others swore, "But you have to be careful of senior brother Lu Chao. After all, he's a core disciple. If he finds out about this, we'll be in trouble. Core disciples have the power to kill. They don't have to go through the sect to kill inner disciples." Zhou Hai said worriedly, "It's okay. A 4-star king is strong. I might not be able to defeat him, but I'm still able to protect myself." Lin Xian wasn't boasting. He had many tricks up his sleeve, which was far beyond what Zhou Hai and the others could imagine. Then the group of people moved and left the place. Lin Xian and the others didn't continue with their mission. Instead, they returned to the sect. With their current strength, they couldn't fight against the 10,000 Poison sect. Lin Xian wasn't in the mood, so the group went back. However, Lin Xian's face darkened when he returned to Danzong. Chapter 1559. Lin Xian wasn't in the mood either, so the group went back. However, Lin Xian's face darkened when he returned to Danzong. He realized that half of his courtyard had been destroyed. This made him extremely angry. When the crowd saw that Lin Xian had returned, they began to point at him and discuss among themselves. In front of him, in the courtyard that Lin Xian had destroyed, there were 2 young men sitting. When they saw Lin Xian return, they opened their eyes. "You're Lin Xian?" The 2 of them stared at Lin Xian with hostility. "That's right. It's me. You destroyed my courtyard?" Lin Xian asked coldly. "Humph. So what if we destroyed your courtyard? Do you dare to resist?" The 2 of them sneered. "How dare you offend young Master Fong? You're courting death." "Kid, I didn't expect you to be so lucky to be back so soon. If you meet young Master Fong outside, you're dead meat. Don't worry, you didn't meet young Master Fong, but you met us. We'll teach him a lesson. Let him know that some people are not to be messed with. Kid, I advise you to kneel down and apologize, or you'll die a horrible death. You're the ones who should kneel down and apologize. How dare you destroy my courtyard? Lin Xian's voice was cold, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. How dare you threaten me? The two young men sneered. Kid, don't you know who you are? You're just a newbie who just entered the inner sect. How dare you be so arrogant? I'm young Master Fong's man, and young Master Fong is senior brother Lu's man. You've offended us, and you won't be able to stay in the inner sect for long. At this point, the two young men laughed arrogantly. The crowd was silent because they knew that they were right. That Lin Xian is dead meat. Yeah, he could have offended anyone, but he chose to offend Fong Li. He's too young and doesn't know any better. I think he'll understand after staying in the inner sect for a while. Hearing the voices around them, the two arrogant disciples became even more smug. Kid, did you hear that? You're hopeless. Kneel down and apologize to us. Maybe we'll let you go if we're in a good mood. Humph, you're courting death. Lin Xian didn't say anything. He was like a ghost, appeared in an instant in front of the two young men, raised his palm, and slapped them. P. Slap. Two crisp sounds rang out. Immediately, the two arrogant youths received 2 slaps on their faces. You, how dare you hit us? The two of them were stunned for a moment before they roared angrily. Normally, they would flaunt their prowess in the inner sanctum. When had anyone dared to bully them? But now, was a newbie who was a new T-Lin, T-Date. They T, as for the surrounding inner disciples, their minds went blank upon seeing this, and they stood rooted to the ground with a blank expression. They couldn't believe what had just happened. However, Lin Xian merely sneered. He waved his palm and sent another slap forward. Slap, slap. Crisp slaps were heard. Soon, the two arrogant young men's heads were swollen. Blood mixed with teeth. All fell out. The two arrogant young men's faces were swollen and bleeding profusely. Their eyes were full of anger, and they roared crazily. They wanted to dodge, but they couldn't. In the end, there was a look of horror in their eyes. They realized that although Lin Xian was only a one-star king, his strength was too terrifying and unfathomable. They couldn't afford to offend him. No, don't hit us. I was wrong. Brother, stop. Please spare us. The two arrogant young men knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. When the surrounding inner disciples saw this, their eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets. They couldn't believe that the two arrogant young men were kneeling before Lin Xian. God, I'm not dreaming. Am I? Aren't they Fong Li's men? They're usually arrogant. Why are they scared this time? Who is that Lin Xian? How can he be so powerful? In an instant, everyone was talking about it. Only Zhou Hai and the others were relatively calm. This was because this was nothing. Even their boss, Fong Li, had been killed by Lin Xian. Of course, they wouldn't tell anyone about this. Lin Xian retracted his hand and wiped his fingers. Then he said, "You destroyed my courtyard. You should know what to do, right?" Yes, brother. We'll fix it for you now. The two of them moved quickly to fix Lin Xian's courtyard. This scene was too strange. More and more inner sect disciples came to watch. However, the two arrogant young men didn't dare to be arrogant anymore. Instead, they quickly lowered their heads and worked. Soon, the courtyard was fixed. Lin Xian didn't make things difficult for them and told them to get lost. After the two of them left, the surrounding inner sect disciples also left. However, from now on, no one would dare to offend Lin Xian. Lin Xian entered the courtyard. With a wave of his hand, a formation quickly formed and surrounded the courtyard. Then he sat down cross-legged and took out Fong Li's storage ring. There were plenty of things inside. There were dozens of subdivine crystals, many elixirs, and many spiritual herbs. Other than that, Lin Xian also found some cultivation techniques. Most of them were useless to him. However, he was interested in one of them called the fire manipulation art. As he became more familiar with the shaken world, Lin Xian realized that the subdivine crystals were unusual even in this place. Therefore, Fong Li had dozens of subdivine crystals, which was quite a lot. As for the ordinary disciples, most of them still used high-grade spirit stones. After putting away the subdivine crystals, Lin Xian opened the fire manipulation art. This fire manipulation art was about an alchemist's control of fire. Lin Xian was inspired by some of the intricacies of the book. Chapter 1560. If Lu Chao found out about this, he might attack him at any time. He had to be careful. Lu Chao was a 4-star king. With his current strength, he could not fight against him. Therefore, he had to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. Also, he had to break through to become a core disciple. Based on the current situation, only 4-star kings had a chance of becoming a core disciple. Lin Xian held the dozens of subdivinity crystals in his hand and used the long life incantation to absorb them quickly. Just like that, Lin Xian went into seclusion. The other inner disciples were still on the mission of hunting down the 10,000 Poisons sect. Among them, the most dazzling one was the small team led by the core disciple Lu Chao. Wherever they went, the 10,000 Poisons sect was immediately destroyed. No one was spared. Lu Chao was wearing a white robe. His face was cold, and he exuded a powerful aura. He stood in the air like a fire god. With a wave of his hand, the red cauldron above his head shone brightly and formed a sea of fire that killed hundreds of 10,000 Poisons sect martial artists. Behind him, a few inner disciples clapped and cheered. Lu Chao was expressionless as he slowly landed on the ground. Then he frowned. How long has it been? Why isn't Fong Li back yet? It's been 2 days. Yeah, what's Fong Li doing? Has he returned to the sect? A few inner disciples were confused. Lu Chao looked at the contribution points in his hand and nodded. It's about time. I should be able to exchange for many things. Let's go back to the sect first. Then they set off and returned to Danzong. However, when they returned, Lu Chao and the others realized that Fong Li had not returned. However, they did not care and went to exchange for treasures. However, after waiting for 3 days, they realized that Fong Li had not returned. Those people all started to frown. Even Lu Chao's expression had sunk. Under normal circumstances, Fong Li would not have dared to leave him for so many days without sending him a message. There was only one possibility for this to happen. Something had happened to Fong Li, and he could not return. No matter what, as his subordinate, Fong Li was very capable. Moreover, he was talented and wanted to nurture him. Thus, Lu Chao became worried upon seeing that Xu Feng had yet to return. He asked in a low voice, "Who was Fong Li with the last time?" "It should be those inner sect disciples," someone said from the side. "Didn't Fong Li say that he had to deal with some personal matters the last time we worked together? After that, there was no news of him. Have you searched outside?" Lu Chao asked again. "Yes, I've already searched the nearby forests and cities. In fact, we even searched the place where he left. However, we were unable to find any trace of him. It's like Fong Li has evaporated into thin air." Hearing this, Lu Chao's face darkened. The surrounding disciples were also extremely confused. That's impossible. With Fong Li's strength, there shouldn't be any accidents. Even if I encounter people from the Myriad Poison sect, I should be able to escape even if I can't defeat them. The few of them conversed, but the more they thought about it, the more they felt that something was off. Did something really happen to Fong Li? Lu Chao's face was also gloomy. "I think it's very likely." Upon hearing these words, the surrounding inner disciples gasped in shock. Then their eyes widened. How is that possible? Who could put Fong Li in such a predicament? Unless it's a 4-star king. But we've been on this mission for so many days and we haven't seen a single 4-star king or myriad poison sect martial artist. It's useless to think so much. Who did he meet last? Call those inner disciples over. Lu Chao said coldly. Yes, I'll call them over right now. An inner disciple quickly left. On the other side, Lin Xian had been in seclusion all this time, and he finally opened his eyes today. However, he sighed slightly because he hadn't broken through to the 2-star king realm. After entering the king realm, the energy required to break through was extremely huge. Especially for him, he required even more energy than an ordinary person. This was actually very normal. The Dragon Sword Soul was extremely powerful, and its attack power was unparalleled. Thus, the energy it required was much greater than an ordinary martial artist's. Although Lin Xian had many natural treasures and the powerful absorption power of the longevity art, he still couldn't meet the requirements of the Dragon Sword Soul. It seemed like he had to go out and search for opportunities. Lin Xian stood up and prepared to go out. However, although he hadn't broken through to the 2-star king realm, his current cultivation had reached the late stage of the 1-star king realm. His strength was also much stronger than before. However, at this moment, Zhou Hai came over again. His expression was extremely solemn as he said to Lin Xian, "Brother Lin, senior brother Lu Chao has sent people to look for us. Could it be that we've been exposed?" Lin Xian's eyelids twitched when he heard this, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. However, he still took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "We shouldn't have been exposed. If we were exposed, he wouldn't have sent people to look for us. Instead, he would have come directly. Perhaps he's just suspicious, or perhaps he doesn't know what happened and wants to ask us. Don't worry. Our cultivations are very low, and we're nothing in his eyes. He won't think that we can kill Fong Li. We just have to calm down." Very quickly, Lin Xian, Zhou Hai, and the others were taken away. Lu Chao's gaze was like lightning as he looked at Lin Xian and the others. He asked coldly, "Let me ask you, do you know where Fong Li is?" "Fong Li? We don't know." "Hasn't he returned yet?" Zhou Hai and the others played dumb. "Why did he look for you that day?" Lu Chao continued to ask. "Nothing special. It was just a small misunderstanding. It's already been resolved," Zhou Hai continued to explain. "A bunch of nonsense." Lu Chao was suddenly enraged, and his expression was unusually cold. "Nothing special? I heard that Fong Li has a grudge with this kid, and it's not a small one. Now you're telling me that there's nothing special? What else are you hiding from me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. I'm a core disciple, and I have the power to kill you. Therefore, even if I kill you now, the sect won't say anything." Hearing this, Zhou Hai and the others turned pale, and Lin Xian's gaze was also cold. Lu Chao's overbearing attitude made him very uncomfortable. Under normal circumstances, he would have already made his move. However, he still had a mission in Danzong that he had yet to complete. Therefore, he couldn't fall out with them. At least, he couldn't let the higher-ups in Danzong notice him. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Indeed, there was a misunderstanding between me and Fong Li." Chapter 1561. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said, "Indeed, there was some misunderstanding between me and Fong Li. I was promoted to an inner disciple by an elder of the sect, taking his sister's spot. I didn't know about this before. Because of this, Fong Li wanted to make trouble for me. But that day, he didn't do anything and left as if he had discovered something else. It should have something to do with the 10,000 Poisons sect." Lin Xian said half of the truth, but he pushed the blame to the 10,000 Poisons sect. Lu Chao didn't say anything. He stared coldly at Lin Xian, and at the same time, he released the pressure of a 4-star king. Feeling this pressure, Zhou Hai and the others turned pale, and their bodies trembled. Lin Xian snorted inwardly. This pressure didn't have any effect on him, but he still used the immortality incantation to squeeze out a few drops of sweat, making his face even paler. After all, he couldn't reveal too much of his strength. Lu Chao was like a demon, and his cold eyes were like sharp swords that could pierce through them. The atmosphere in the air was getting more and more tense. Suddenly, an inner disciple flew in quickly. With a panicked expression, he said, "Senior brother Lu Chao, something bad happened." "What happened? Is it news about Fongli?" Lu Chao asked coldly. "No, it's about the 10,000 Poison Sect. The 10,000 Poison Sect came with a purpose. They built an ancient tomb in the Fengshan mountain range, and it's filled with killing intent. It's already attracted the attention of many sects and countries. Our Danzong is also very shocked. Many people are heading there now. Senior brother, should we go to ancient tomb? Let's go take a look." Lu Chao stood up without hesitation. After taking 2 steps, he turned back and stared at Lin Xian and the others. "You better be telling the truth. If I find out that you're lying, I'll kill you immediately." With that, he let out a cold harumph and led the other inner sect disciples up into the sky, disappearing into the void. Zhou Hai and the others were pale, and they sat on the ground with cold sweat. The situation just now really scared them to death. It was fortunate that they had news about the 10,000 Poisons Hall as a shield. Otherwise, they would have been in grave danger by now. Lin Xian's expression was also cold. He knew that this matter was very troublesome. From the looks of it, regardless of whether he was the culprit or not, they still wanted to kill him. Humph, what an overbearing fellow. However, it's still not certain who will kill who. Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he coldly snorted, "Zhou Hai, you guys go back. I need to go out for a while." Lin Xian had always wanted to go out and look for opportunities. This time, the 10,000 Poisons Sect had created an ancient tomb that piqued his interest. With the character of the 10,000 Poisons Sect, there must be treasures inside. If he could get them, he might be able to become a 2-star king warrior. Once he became a 2-star king, Lu Chao and the others wouldn't be his match at all. At that time, it would be hard to say who would kill who. With a sway of his body, Lin Xian also disappeared in the air. This time, he didn't move together with the other inner disciples. Although they were quite strong, it would be difficult for them to explore such an ancient tomb. Of course, he didn't move alone. He was accompanied by the Crimson Dragon. Finally, there's treasure again. Ben Huang is so excited. The Crimson Dragon stretched his neck and howled like a hungry wolf. He had been holding back for too long these days. "Kid, let's go all out this time and see what good things are in that ancient tomb." The 2 of them flew in the air like lightning. After flying for about 10,000 miles, they finally found their target. In the distance, there was a black mountain range with soaring killing intent and rampant demonic chi. It was very terrifying, as if it had turned into hell. That aura made even the Crimson Dragon tremble. F***CK. What a dense, baleful aura. The Crimson Dragon was very suspicious, but then his eyes lit up. Lin Xian also checked carefully and reminded, "Be careful. This place is not like the Sky Martial Continent. There are experts everywhere. We must not enter a dangerous place." The 2 of them descended from the sky and hid their auras. They walked carefully. When they looked up, they could see many figures flashing on the mountain peak in the distance. Among them, there were not only people from the Danzong, but also the sects and countries nearby. They were all looking for the ancient tomb. The closer they got to Feng Mountain Range, the more the aura of death there was. On the ground, black liquid began to appear, and even the trees were rotting. The whole mountain range seemed to have turned into hell. This is Feng Mountain. Even if there is no ancient tomb, it is still a land of death. Zombies often appear here, so you must be careful. He, too, also reminded, There's such a thing. Lin Xian was surprised. He originally thought that the appearance of the mysterious ancient tomb had caused this change, but after hearing He Tu's words, he realized that was not the case. On the side, the Crimson Dragon also explained, he is right. Feng Mountain has been a dead mountain since ancient times. Who knows how many corpses have been buried here, and there is no lack of experts among them. Of course, if the situation is good, they will die and become skeletons. If the situation is bad, they will turn into zombies. Ordinary martial artists will turn into zombies at most, but those peerless experts will turn into zombies with intelligence those zombies can cultivate. They are very terrifying. Kid, if we meet those zombies, we can only run. The Crimson Dragon also had a lingering fear. It was obvious that he knew a lot about Fengshan. With the two's reminder, Lin Xian naturally became more careful. However, it was useless. The closer he got to Feng Mountain, the more bones there were. Crack! Lin Xian crushed a few bones with each step. Finally, he startled a skeleton creature. Crack! Crack! Countless white bones crawled out from the ground, forming skeletons. These skeletons were of different shapes. Some were humanoid, while others were beast-like. At this moment, there were more than 10 skeletons, and they quickly pounced on Lin Xian. Lin Xian executed the dragon-capturing hand. His palms were like 2 true dragons, and they instantly sent the dozen or so white skeletons flying. However, this action of his caused an even greater commotion. More powerful skeletal creatures appeared. An angry roar came from below. Suddenly, the entire ground began to tremble. A crack that was almost 1,000 meters long formed, and then a huge figure appeared. It was also a skeleton's creature, but its body was as big as a small mountain. There were 2 balls of green flames on the huge skeletal bullhead. Those were the flames of the soul. Obviously, the skeletal bullhead in front of him was not one of the trash from before. It was a creature with intelligence. Chapter 1562. The skeletal bull held a giant black axe in its hand. It was as big as a door, and it was full of holes and corroded. However, its power was extraordinary. The giant black tiger axe was swung in the air. It turned into a black ray of light and blasted towards Lin Xian like a bolt of lightning. Lin Xian clenched his fist and punched out. The blood in his body roared like a dragon. Pung! He used his fist to meet the giant black axe head-on. When the two collided, a sonorous sound rang out, causing the void to tremble. Boulders rolled down from the surrounding mountains. With a single strike, Lin Xian was forced to take a step back, whereas the ox-head Whitebone was forced to take 3 steps back. So strong. Lin Xian was surprised. His punch was extremely terrifying. Even a 3-star king might not be able to take it. However, the skeletal creature was only pushed back 3 steps. He had to admit that it was too strong. As for the Whitebone bullhead, it roared furiously. Although its intelligence was not very high, it was still able to understand what was happening before its eyes. A human brat was actually able to force him back. This made him extremely furious. The next moment, the green flames in its eye sockets exploded. A layer of light appeared on its white body. The roar was like a wave, carrying a strange, killing intent, as it quickly enveloped Lin Xian. Roar! On the side, the Crimson Dragon roared as well. It immediately dispersed the skeletal creature's roar. At the same time, Lin Xian clenched his fist, and the 10,000 beast thing appeared in front of him. Then he formed a seal with his fingers. A black ray of light quickly appeared and shot into the skeletal bull's eye sockets. Roar! The skeletal bull let out a miserable cry. The black axe in its hand slashed in all directions, causing the ground to sink. The green flames in its eye sockets jumped as if it was in pain. However, after a while, the green flames calmed down. As for the white bone ox head, it no longer went berserk. Instead, it stood before Lin Xian in a very respectful and docile manner. Lin Xian grabbed the 10,000 bee sting and put it away. Then he nodded in satisfaction. His figure flickered as he arrived at the white bone bull's head and sat down cross-legged. On the other side, the crimson dragon also flew up. "Let's go!" Once the order was given, the white bone ox head took a huge step forward and rushed forward. Bang, bang, bang. It was as if a white ancient mountain was moving, causing the earth to tremble. Along the way, many skeletal creatures were alarmed, but when they saw the skeletal bull head, they all hid underground, not daring to come out. This saved him a lot of trouble. Lin Xian used his soul power to scan the surroundings. He avoided most of the martial artists in the sky and arrived at the nearest mountain range. There's a cave. The crimson dragon's eyes immediately locked on to the front. "Shall we go in and take a look?" he asked excitedly. "All right." Lin Xian nodded. Then the two of them turned into rainbows and flew toward the cave ahead. As soon as they entered the cave, Lin Xian felt a gloomy and cold aura surround him. The aura was very strange. It was like a gust of gloomy wind that caused his hair to stand on end. His figure flashed, and the red lotus armor appeared. After all these years, Lin Xian had gathered all the materials and refined the complete red lotus armor. The red lotus armor's might was even greater than the starry sky armor. At the very least, it could be used by King realm martial artists. As soon as the red lotus armor appeared, Lin Xian immediately felt that the effect of the gloomy wind was greatly reduced. This made him heave a sigh of relief. On the other side, the crimson dragon roared as well. The dragon blood in his body surged and formed a defense to resist the gloomy wind. After the two of them got used to the environment in the cave, they started to size up the surroundings. The inside of the cave was different from the outside. The outside was a swamp with rotten flesh and bones, but the inside of the cave was much cleaner and had a hard rock floor. It was very dark inside, but it wasn't a problem for Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. With their eyesight, they were naturally able to see that there was a passageway ahead. From the looks of it, it was probably a cave abode. They hadn't expected that they would be so lucky as to find a cave abode at random. A wisp of joy appeared on Lin Xian's face. The Crimson Dragon was delighted as well. Even though it's not the main cave abode, it should be pretty good. Let's go down and take a look. The passageway was in the shape of a spiral and extended underground. Lin Xian and Anhong were bold as they walked down. The passageway was very deep and seemed to lead to hell. Gradually, they heard footsteps reverberating in the passageway. "Is there someone here?" The two of them were shocked. They restrained their auras and moved quickly. Then, they were stunned. There were indeed footsteps ahead, but they didn't belong to humans. They belonged to bones and zombies. The zombies and bones outside were mostly monsters, but in here they were all humans. They wore worn-out armor and were expressionless. Their eyes were the color of dead ashes. They walked in the cave like patrolling soldiers. How strange. These zombies can absorb the surrounding aura of death. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. Then he looked carefully and exclaimed, "Kid, look at the inscriptions on their bodies." Lin Xian looked over as well, and a look of shock appeared on his face. Indeed, the Crimson Dragon was right. The zombies in front of them all had obscure inscriptions on their bodies. Fortunately, the two of them were experts in this field. Otherwise, they might not have noticed it. This is a formation inscribed on these zombies. It allows them to absorb the surrounding aura of death and keep them moving. What a clever trick. I wonder who set it up for them. Could it be the owner of this cave abode? I don't know. Let's go down and take a look, said Lin Xian. The aura of death around them became thicker and thicker, but Lin Xian was not afraid at all. He activated the Crimson Lotus armor and formed a red lotus around him to resist the aura of death around him. The dark red divine dragon also flew quickly, letting out a dragon's roar. His aura was like a furnace of heaven and earth. It was so powerful that the aura of death around him didn't dare to get close. The two of them were like lightning as they rushed forward with large strides. Bang, bang, bang. Wherever they passed, the zombies and skeletons were smashed away. But gradually more and more zombies appeared. Their bodies were even shining with a metallic light. Their auras were also much stronger than before. Boom. Suddenly, a black shadow appeared in front of them and rushed over. It was a tall zombie. Most of the clothes on its body had already rotted away. The exposed skin was cold and metallic. His movements were stiff and strange, but his speed was strange. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. What a powerful zombie! It has the aura of a king. Lin Xian was surprised. He found that the zombie had the aura of a one-star king. Buzz, the tall zombie, was full of murderous intent. He seemed to have turned into a sharp sword and attacked quickly. Chapter 1563. Whoa! That tall zombie was covered in a murderous aura. His entire body seemed to have turned into a sharp sword as he charged forward. Boom! He stretched out his hand with a cold aura and grabbed at Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon. Pung! Dang! Lin Xian punched out, hitting the zombie's palm. The Crimson Dragon also waved its dragon claw and slapped out quickly. Immediately, that tall zombie was sent flying. Although he was powerful and had reached the level of a one-star king in front of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon, he could not resist at all. However, to Lin Xian's surprise, this attack did not kill the zombie. Lin Xian's punch had hit the zombie's palm. Although it had pushed the zombie back, it did not seem to have suffered any substantial damage. The Crimson Dragon's dragon claw had only dented a part of the zombie's body. What kind of physique is this? It's so powerful. The Crimson Dragon was surprised. Even an ordinary three-star king would not have been able to withstand this attack. However, the zombie's body did not split open. It was too strange. That tall zombie roared angrily. His body suddenly bounced up like a spring and charged forward again. His movements were very stiff, but his arms were like two demonic blades that slashed in all directions, even cutting the void apart. Pung pung pung. A low sound rang out. Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were engaged in a fierce battle. To be honest, this zombie should have died hundreds of times by now. However, its physique was very special. It was like a rare divine weapon that was abnormally tough. In the end, Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon were annoyed. With a low roar, Lin Xian waved his hand. 9 underworld devil flames rushed out quickly, forming a ferocious beast that charged forward. Boom! Whoosh whoosh! The 9 underworld devil flames were very terrifying. Even the zombie could not withstand it. Its body began to melt, forming a puddle of molten iron. The puddle of molten iron quickly condensed into a fist-sized iron ball that flickered with cold light. It even emitted a wave of energy. What is this? You should be able to absorb it, right? Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed the metal ball. No problem, it can be absorbed. This is the zombie's energy, said Hey Tuesday, that's good. Lin Xian was overjoyed. What he lacked the most now was energy. Holding the mysterious iron autumn in one hand, Lin Xian used the longevity secret art to madly absorb the energy inside. At the same time, he and the Crimson Dragon set off again. Not long after, another change occurred ahead. It was a powerful zombie. It quickly pounced over, but it wasn't completely human. There was even a pair of black wings on his back. What is this? Lin Xian was surprised. He then said to the Crimson Dragon, "Rosalong, I'll leave it to you. It's just a Batman. It's no big deal." The Crimson Dragon was very knowledgeable. It recognized the other party at a glance, so it waved its dragon claws and rushed over. Although the Batman's aura was stronger than the previous one, the battle ended quickly. The reason for that was because the dark red divine dragon had directly smeared the dragon's blood onto its dragon claw. With a single slap, it had smashed its opponent's head off. Puff! A pearl the size of a longan fell out of the other party's head. The Crimson Dragon grabbed it and swallowed it. "Not bad. It tastes good." The Crimson Dragon grinned. Next, the two encountered many powerful zombies, but they were all killed by the two of them. The energy inside the zombies was also absorbed by them. Therefore, along the way, the aura of Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon increased rapidly. Finally, they arrived at the end of the cave. The cave was very wide, like a huge square. It was supported by countless stone pillars, and on top of the pillars there were cryptic inscriptions carved on them. They flickered with a strange light. On the ground, there were also inscriptions which were incomparably complicated. The source of these inscriptions all pointed forward. There was a black coffin which was emitting a cold and gloomy aura. The coffin was very large, 5 meters long and 1 meter tall. At this moment, it was lying there quietly like an ancient demonic mountain, making it difficult for people to breathe. Judging from its aura, it was definitely not an ordinary tomb. "How is it? Is there anything special around it? What are these inscriptions for?" Lin Xian asked. It was similar to a kind of inscription that gathered death chi for cultivation. It should have been set up by the person in the coffin when he was alive. Set it up when he was alive? Could it be that he still wanted to cultivate after he died? Lin Xian had a strange look on his face. Ghouls are very strange. "I'm not too sure either, but let's open the coffin and take a look." "Okay." The two of them discussed for a while, then carefully walked forward. The black coffin was very heavy. It was unknown what material it was made of. Its weight was heavier than 10 mountains. Lin Xian stretched out his hand, grabbed it, and lifted it up. Rumble, rumble, rumble. With a loud sound, the black coffin slowly opened. At the same time, Lin Xian was very careful, afraid that there would be an attack from inside. However, there was no danger. There was indeed a corpse inside. It was a middle-aged man whose eyes were closed. He was 2 meters tall and wore luxurious clothes. Around him, there were dozens of gems which were shining brightly. "This is high-grade subdivine crystals," the Crimson Dragon exclaimed. It waved its dragon claws, quickly grabbed a few of them, and carefully examined them. Yes, they were indeed high-quality subdivine crystals. As a kind of energy crystal, subdivine crystals were naturally divided into different grades. The ones used by ordinary warriors were ordinary subdivine crystals. Above them, there were many subdivine crystals and supreme-grade subdivine crystals. Different grades had different amounts of energy contained in them. It was like the difference between low-grade, middle-grade, and high-grade spiritual stones. To be honest, Lin Xian had never seen a high-quality subdivine crystal before. It was also his first time seeing one. The subdivine crystals were like colored agates, shining brightly and emitting terrifying amounts of energy. What's this?" Lin Xian turned his eyes and stared at the middle-aged man's hand. The middle-aged man put his palms together and placed them flat on his body. However, Lin Xian's soul power was strong. He naturally discovered that there was something else in the man's hand. Using dragon-capturing hands, 2 real dragons rushed out and opened the man's hands. There was something similar to a jade pendant. It was half the size of a palm and was shining with mysterious light. Lin Xian waved his hand and immediately took the jade pendant in his hand. Finally, he looked at it carefully. "What's this?" He was very surprised. However, the crimson dragon glanced at it and exclaimed, "Supreme grade subdivine crystal. This is a supreme grade subdivine crystal. Supreme grade subdivine crystal?" Lin Xian was also surprised. At this moment, the middle-aged man's corpse suddenly opened its eyes. Chapter 1564. There was a tinge of anger in his eyes, and his calm face became ferocious. Not only that, but his body also started to change, and red hair started to grow on his body. Oh no! The corpse is mutating. Seeing this, the crimson dragon's scalp went numb. With a wave of his dragon claws, he took away all the high-quality subdivine crystals. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. Lin Xian's body swayed as he retreated backward. He really couldn't figure out how the mysterious corpse that had been fine all this time had mutated. Could it be because of the subdivine crystals? However, there was no time for him to think about it. The corpse stood up, and his eyes swept across the area like a rainbow. A black spatial crack appeared in the void. At this moment, his entire body was covered with red hair, and he looked extremely ferocious. He turned into a bolt of red lightning and charged at Lin Xian at high speed. Bang! He struck out with both palms, and the force was earth-shattering. They landed heavily on Lin Xian and forced Lin Xian to retreat. So powerful! Lin Xian was shocked. He did not expect the mysterious demonic corpse to be so powerful. The palm strike was so terrifying that his blood was boiling, and he almost burst open. Fortunately, he had put up his defenses in advance and used the Red Lotus armor. Otherwise, he would have been more severely injured. Roar! Seeing that the palm strike did not kill Lin Xian, the mysterious demonic corpse roared angrily. The light in his eyes shone again, and he slashed at Lin Xian like two long knives. Lin Xian snorted, and his body shone with light. It formed a sharp sword chi and slashed forward. Clang, clang, clang. The terrifying sword chi hit the mysterious demonic corpse and made clanging sounds and sparks. However, it could not break the mysterious demonic corpse's body. At the same time, the mysterious demonic corpse had arrived in front of Lin Xian. His palms were like ghost claws that slapped down quickly. "You're courting death," Lin Xian snorted. He formed a seal with his palms and pushed them out. Suddenly, a golden heavenly rock appeared in his palms and rushed out. It collided with the mysterious demonic corpse's claws. This time, the mysterious demonic corpse was finally forced back. It let out a furious roar, and the red hair on its body fluttered like red flames. It was incomparably strange. With a wave of his hand, he tore through the void and formed dozens of sharp lights that slashed toward Lin Xian. Humph! Lin Xian directly used the dragon sword domain to envelop the other party. Suddenly, green sword chi surrounded the entire space. It was like a rain of swords crazily slashing at the other party. The great dragon sword spirit roared within, emitting a dragon's roar. A terrifying aura permeated the heavens and the earth. For a moment, the entire void was boiling. Bang, bang! The dragon sword domain was incomparably powerful. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was grave. The other party's strength was too strong, and it seemed to have an indestructible body. It was impossible to kill it. Its strength was almost on par with a 4-star king, but fortunately, his great dragon sword soul was able to display its might at this moment, and it was able to destroy the red hair on its body. It seemed that killing the other party was only a matter of time. The red-haired zombie also felt the danger. It roared angrily and quickly waved its palms. 4 terrifying palm shadows shot out and bombarded the surrounding stone pillars. Wung wung! In the next moment, The stone pillars were like the pillars of gods and demons. The inscriptions on them flashed, and together with the inscriptions on the ground, they formed a strange formation. Not good. Damn, that red-haired zombie. It actually knows how to make use of formations. The Crimson Dragon's expression changed. As a formation expert, he could naturally feel the terror of this formation. Even he could not break it in a short time. On the other hand, Lin Xian's expression was grave, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. The blood in his body began to boil. As the successor of the Great Dragon Sword, he had inherited the Great Dragon Sword's bravery and strength. He was not afraid of anything. At this moment, even though the red-haired zombie had activated the mysterious formation, it could not stop his shocking battle intent. The blood in his body surged like the roar of a dragon and the roar of a tiger. The Great Dragon Sword soul roared, and the Dragon Sword domain beside him was completely activated. A green domain quickly formed, resisting the surrounding formation. At this moment, Lin Xian was extremely powerful. He held the Nine Darkness demonic sword in his hand, and it was as if the sword demon had been reborn. Kill! With a furious roar, the dragon sword domain trembled. Countless sword chi swept out in all directions, each of them like a mountain. These sword chi slashed out in all directions, causing a huge commotion. In an instant, the surrounding inscriptions were destroyed. Chapter 1565. Bang! The formation that had just been formed also shattered in an instant. All the strange scenes and terrifying auras disappeared. Only the green sword chi was left in the air. The red-haired zombie's expression changed drastically when he saw this scene. He couldn't imagine what kind of power could destroy his formation in an instant. One had to know that this formation was very strange and impossible to destroy. However, a human youth in front of him had actually destroyed it. Moreover, he had destroyed it so easily. He couldn't believe it. Although the red-haired zombie couldn't speak, he obviously had the intelligence of a human. His gaze was uncertain, and his heart was filled with shock. In fact, the sword Dao aura emitted by the other party caused his body to begin to tremble. However, he wouldn't sit still and wait for death. In the next moment, he roared angrily, and a bright light burst out from his eyes. Then, the red hair all over his body began to burn, forming balls of red flames that completely enveloped his body. "Oh no, he's going to go all out. Be careful," the Crimson Dragon exclaimed. Sure enough, in the next moment, the red-haired zombie turned into a ray of light and instantly charged towards Lin Xian. "Let's end this," Lin Xian shouted coldly and raised his combat strength to the limit. Then, he waved the ninth Hell Demon sword and stabbed out. Azure Dragon Break. A wisp of black sword light instantly charged forward like a dragon. This move was very terrifying as it directly attacked the red-haired zombie's head. Instantly, the red-haired zombie's head exploded, and its entire body fell to the ground with a bang. There was no blood, but the surrounding cold aura had disappeared. Moreover, the red hair on the zombie's body also quickly disappeared and finally drilled into its body and disappeared. In addition, a red crystal core fell out of the zombie's body. That was the source of the zombie's energy. Great! Lin Xian retracted his hand and held the red crystal core in his hand. He was extremely happy. The red-haired zombie's strength was close to that of a 4-star king. It was extremely powerful. If he could absorb all the energy inside, he believed that he should be able to break through to the 2-star king realm. Therefore, he didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and held the supreme grade subdivine crystal in one hand and the red crystal core in the other. He used the longevity art to quickly absorb the energy. On the other side, dark red Shenlong was cleaning up the battlefield, collecting all the valuable items in the cave. Then he started to absorb those high-quality subdivinity crystals. At this moment, Lin Xian's secret art of longevity was circulating madly, displaying a powerful and mysterious power. The energy from the top-quality substandard divine crystal and the red crystal core was like a torrential river. It unceasingly poured into Lin Xian's body, cleansing his meridians. Boom! A low voice sounded, and then Lin Xian's aura suddenly soared. Originally, his cultivation base had already reached the late stage of one-star king realm. Moreover, along the way, he had continuously killed zombies and absorbed their crystal cores. His cultivation base had also increased rapidly and had already reached a critical point. Now, with the supreme grade substandard divine crystal and the red crystal core, his cultivation had finally reached the 2-star king realm. So strong. Feeling the energy within his body, Lin Xian was overjoyed. After breaking through to the 2-star king realm, his strength had increased greatly. If he were to face the red-haired zombie now, he would probably be able to kill it in a few moves. Moreover, his current strength was still equivalent to a 4-star king. He was even confident that he could defeat core disciples like Lu Chao. It seemed like it was time to find an opportunity to become a core disciple. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. He decided that when he returned to the sect, he would find Shuyu and see if there was any way for him to become a core disciple as soon as possible. Only by becoming a core disciple would he be able to find out more about the Niwa of Gojoseon. On the other side, the Crimson Dragon had absorbed all the high-quality subdivinity crystals. His cultivation base had also recovered and increased by another level. Now, he had also reached the 2-star king realm. The dragon blood in his body was surging like a furnace of heaven and earth, emitting a rumbling sound. "Haha, I recovered some more." The Crimson Dragon laughed. It wouldn't take long for Ben Huang to recover his full strength. Lin Xian also laughed and said, "Since there's nothing left here, let's go." Thus, the two turned around and flew outside. At the same time, outside the cave, several figures flew toward them at lightning speed. "Senior Brother Lu, we've received news that there seems to be a tomb here." "Yes, I've heard that there are many treasures inside. We spent a lot of money to get this information." A few voices sounded. It turned out that these people were Lu Chao and the others. They had also found this cave and flew over. Soon, Lu Chao and the others descended from the sky and were about to enter the cave. However, at this moment, two black figures flew out from the cave. Whoosh! "Who's there?" "Stand still." Lu Chao waved his hand. Instantly, a terrifying palm image pressed downwards. He had come to the cave to look for treasures. How could he not be shocked when two figures flew out of the cave? He had to stop them and investigate. Indeed, under the palm shadow, the two figures that came out of the cave stopped. "What? It's you?" Lu Chao and the others were stunned for a moment because they realized that they knew the people who came out of the cave. That's right, it was Lin Xian and the Crimson Dragon who came out. Chapter 1566. He hadn't expected that Lin Fan would actually have such a fortuitous encounter and obtain 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals. But soon after, he started laughing wildly. "Kid, I have to say that you're really stupid. You actually dared to say that you obtained such a treasure? But very good, he's mine now." Hand over the supreme-grade subdivine crystals obediently, kneel at the side, and wait for my punishment. "Hand it over? That's impossible. I've already absorbed it." Lin Xian shrugged. "Don't even think about it. You won't be able to obtain a supreme-grade subdivine crystal in your lifetime. Get the hell out of here." "What? You're courting death." Those inner court disciples went crazy, and their hearts ached. On the other hand, Lu Chao's face sank, and his eyes shone with a terrifying light. He stared fixedly at Lin Xian, and then he frowned. As expected, you've broken through to the 2-star king realm. What a piece of trash. 2 supreme-grade subdivine crystals only increased your cultivation by so little? Kid, you dare waste my supreme-grade subdivine crystals? I'll definitely kill you. You've just absorbed them, so there's probably still dense energy remaining in your blood. Even if I can't absorb the supreme-grade subdivine crystals, I'll still absorb the energy in your blood. As soon as he finished speaking, Lu Chao stretched out his palm, and it was like 5 sharp blades that swiftly slapped towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly and raised his fist to meet the attack. His terrifying fist was like an enormous mountain as it swiftly blasted out. At the same time, he sent a voice transmission. Ruzalong, I'll leave those inner court disciples to you. Don't let a single one of them go. Don't worry, it's a piece of cake. The Crimson Dragon grinned, and his body was like a red bolt of lightning that swiftly charged over. Bang! A shocking strike caused a huge explosion in space, and then 2 figures swiftly retreated. Lu Chao took 5 steps back and stabilized his body, but he was extremely shocked. His eyes were filled with astonishment, and he didn't dare accept the reality before his eyes. Lin Fan was a newcomer that had just entered the inner court and was only a 2-star king, but he blocked his attack. This was something that he'd never imagined, because, in his opinion, the other party was merely an ant. He only needed to use a finger to crush the other party to death. Therefore, he had never taken the other party seriously. But now, not only had his opponent blocked his attack, he had even forced him to retreat. If he hadn't experienced it himself, he wouldn't have believed it even if he was beaten to death. It was simply impossible for a 2-star king to contend against a 4-star king. Behind him, the few inner sect disciples widened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost. Damn it, what's going on? How could he block senior brother Lu Chao's attack? Dream. I must be dreaming. They shook their heads in disbelief. However, at this moment, the Crimson Dragon flew over and waved its claws. Hee ants, you should worry about yourselves first. You're courting death. A 4-horned snake dares to be arrogant in front of us? Catch him, peel his skin, cook him, and eat him. Several inner sect disciples were infuriated. They all used their unique skills to attack the Crimson Dragon. Bang, bang, bang. There were a few more thunderous sounds. Then several inner sect disciples spat out blood and were sent flying. Their eyes were filled with shock. They couldn't believe that a 4-horned snake could send all of them flying so easily. What's going on? Are these 2 people humans or ghosts? How could they have such powerful strength? Seeing the inner sect disciples spitting out blood, Lu Chao's face turned even uglier. He gritted his teeth and said, Good. Kid, I underestimated you. But do you think you can be arrogant just because you blocked one of my attacks? Let me tell you, you're too naive. I'll let you know how powerful I really am. Now, it seems like Fong Lu was killed by you too. Lin Xian snorted. So what? Not only am I going to kill him, but I'm going to kill you too. Kill me? You're dreaming. Go to hell. Lu Chao roared. His face was ferocious, and a cold, murderous aura shot into the air. Boundless flames surrounded him, making him look like the god of fire. He waved his hand, and a red cauldron appeared in the air. There were 2 lifelike fire dragons circling around it. With a wave of his hand, boundless flames gathered and formed a fire dragon that roared incomparably. A terrifying heat wave covered the sky, as if the entire sky had turned into a sea of fire. The fire dragon roared and charged toward Lin Xian. The entire void was left with boundless magma, as if it had been cut open. Lin Xian was in the dragon sword's spiritual domain, and it was empty. He emitted a sharp aura, like a peerless god of war. Whoosh! He turned into a sword light and dodged the fire dragon's attack. At the same time, he clenched his hand and summoned a small black cauldron. 10,000 bee sting. It was a true earth-grade weapon. In the past, Lin Xian's cultivation was too low to unleash its true power. Now that he was a 2-star king, he had the strength to unleash 10,000 bee sting. The palm shadows kept slapping, and the 10,000 bee sting trembled and emitted a black light. One after another, rare bees swam on it. Woo-woo, roar. It was as if 10,000 beasts were roaring at the same time, emitting a terrifying aura. In a trance, there were countless demonic beast phantoms circling around. With a flick of his finger, a black light condensed and formed a large hand of death that slapped forward. Bang! With a shocking blow, the large black palm covered the sky and directly slapped the fire dragon, breaking it. Boom, boom. Flames splattered everywhere, and the void was dyed red. What? It's broken! On the opposite side, Lu Chao's pupils constricted. If it was a coincidence that Lin Xian pushed him back the first time, this time, it was definitely not a coincidence that the other party broke his attack again. This time, he even used his own weapon. It could be said that he was going all out. However, the other party was still able to block it. Damn it, how is this possible? How can this kid have such powerful combat strength? Lu Chao roared and instantly activated his king's domain. Immediately, a fiery red domain shrouded him. The terrifying domain distorted the entire void, as if it had become a real sea of fire. Kill! Lu Chao roared and charged toward Lin Xian quickly with the Red King's domain. Soon, he collided with the large black palm. Immediately, the black palm shattered into pieces. Unable to resist. Humph, kid, so what if your weapon is powerful? In terms of domains, you are no match for me at all. At this moment, Lu Chao was very confident. He was a 4-star king, and his domain was already very terrifying. It was definitely not something that a 2-star king could contend against. He had already seen that the other party was able to break his attack earlier because of the small black cauldron. Other than that, the other party would definitely not be able to break his attack. It's good to be confident, but stupid is not good. You clearly belong to the stupid category. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Is your domain very strong? Watch me break it. Chapter 1567. As soon as he finished speaking, the dragon sword realm quickly appeared beside him. Suddenly, tens of thousands of sword chi pierced through the sky, and the entire void seemed to have become a killing ground. The monstrous aura stirred up the clouds, as if it could kill gods and demons. What? This sword chi? Lu Chao felt the sword chi emitted by the dragon sword realm, and his face changed drastically. To be honest, he had never felt such a sharp sword chi, even though he was far away and had the protection of the king realm. However, he was still able to sense the killing intent brought about by the sword aura. The hair on his body stood on end. Damn it, how can his realm be so strong? I don't believe it. Lu Chao gritted his teeth and crazily activated the Red King realm. Suddenly, endless flames shot up into the sky, and 8 fire dragons circled around his body as they quickly charged forward. Mirror still water. Lin Xian was expressionless. He waved his hand, and the dragon sword realm trembled. Countless sword chi circled around, forming a huge sword screen. It was like a mirror, incomparably bright and clean. The 8 fire dragons carried monstrous heat waves as they fiercely collided with the mirror. Immediately, all of them were bounced back. What? All of them were bounced back? How is this possible? Lu Chao was shocked and couldn't believe it. The few inner disciples below had already widened their eyes, as if they had seen a ghost. Everyone knew how terrifying Lu Chao was. Among the inner disciples, no one was a match for him. Even among the core disciples, he was one of the stronger ones. But now, a newcomer who had just entered the inner sect was actually able to compete with Lu Chao and even suppress him. This made them unable to believe it. Impossible. Damn it, I don't believe it. How can you be so strong? Lu Chao's hair was disheveled, and his face was ferocious. I can only say that you are ignorant. Originally, I had no enmity with you, but you tried to kill me time and time again. So, you only have yourself to blame. Now, it's all over. Lin Xian pulled out the 9 darkness demon sword, and tens of thousands of sword chi circled around him. He was like a sword demon, incomparably terrifying. It's over? Impossible. I still have many secret techniques, and I still have pills to increase my strength. Kid, let me tell you, my methods are not something you can imagine. As long as I don't hesitate to increase my strength, I can even compete with a 5-star king. What do you have to fight me? Today, I will teach you how to kill. After saying that, Lu Chao flipped his palm. Immediately, 2 red pills appeared in his palm. As long as he swallowed 2 red pills, he would be able to stimulate the potential in his body and temporarily obtain great power. However, Lin Xian's expression was ice cold. He held the 9 Serenities demonic sword and quickly moved it in the air. Underworld Dao waning moonbreak, with a wave of his sword, an invisible force condensed in the air. Crack, crack! A black crack appeared in the air. It was incomparably terrifying and emitted a strange aura. It was as if a peerless demon had opened its terrifying mouth and was about to devour everything. In the next moment, the spatial crack enveloped Lu Chao's figure. With a miserable shriek, Lu Chao was sucked into the black crack and disappeared. Soon after, the pitch-black crack began to slowly heal. The sky regained its clarity, but Lu Chao's figure had already disappeared. Only the remnant energy still lingered in the surroundings. What happened? Below, a few inner sect disciples saw this scene and looked at each other. But after waiting for a long time, they did not see Lu Chao again. This gave them a bad premonition. What did you do to Brother Chao? A few of them asked in horror. He was no longer in this world. Lin Xian shook his head coldly. The move just now had directly cut open the void and connected to the void. Lu Chao was exiled by him and could not return at all. This outcome was even more terrifying than being killed. You are a demon, not a human. A few inner sect disciples felt their skin crawl and turn around to run. Wanna run? Hee hee. The crimson dragon sneered. Then he opened his mouth and spat out several red rays of light that pierced through a few of them. With a wave of his dragon claw, a terrifying dragon flame gushed out and burned the corpses to ashes. After doing all this, he stopped and returned to Lin Xian's side. Let's go. It's about time to go back. All right then, let's go to the other mountains next time. The crimson dragon glanced into the distance. Indeed, strictly speaking, they had not entered Feng Mountain yet. They were only at the periphery. Therefore, there were not many people around. It seemed that the real Feng Mountain and the great ancient tomb would be even more terrifying than the previous cave. The two of them turned into lightning and flew into the sky and disappeared. Lu Chao's incident had caused a stir in the sect. After all, he was a core disciple and was quite strong. This kind of person was the elite of Danzong's disciples. However, after the alchemy sect investigated, they did not discover who did it. Moreover, the culprit disappeared in Feng Mountain. It was very likely that another sect or some existence in the great ancient tomb had done it. Therefore, the sect could only give up on investigating. On the other hand, Lin Xian had also returned to Danzong. He stayed for a few days and then prepared to look for Chuyu. He now knew that Chuyu was also a core disciple. However, What surprised him was that Chu Yu's cultivation had not reached the level of a 4-star king. However, to be able to become a core disciple meant that Chu Yu's attainments in alchemy were extraordinary. However, in the past few days, he found out that Chu Yu was not only a core disciple, but also an extremely powerful one among the core disciples. Personal disciple. That's right, Chu Yu was the personal disciple of Elder Danzong. His status was even more honorable than a core disciple like Lu Chao. Lin Xian finally understood why the other party could arrange for him to enter Danzong so easily. It turned out that he was a personal disciple. However, this was even better. He believed that the other party must have a way to promote him and make him a core disciple. The alchemy sect was located in the middle of a mountain range. The inner and core disciples were not on the same mountain. Therefore, Lin Xian had to fly away from the inner disciples to the core disciples' residence. After flying for about half an hour, he lowered his body and arrived at the foot of the mountain. Just as he was about to enter, a cold shout suddenly came from the front. "Stop!" This voice was like a clap of thunder. It was abnormally terrifying and caused the void to tremble. Hearing this voice, Lin Xian frowned, but he still stopped. Soon, 6 disciples flew over from afar like rainbows. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the core disciples' residence? Aren't you afraid of being killed? This is not a place where you can enter. Leave quickly. You misunderstand. I'm here to look for someone," Lin Xian said slowly. "Look for someone? Who is it?" the guards asked coldly. They were not core disciples and were only guards in charge of guarding this place. However, their status and strength had already surpassed most of the inner disciples. They were very powerful. Therefore, apart from the core disciples, they did not take anyone seriously. Chapter 1568. "I'm looking for Chuyu," Lin Xian said indifferently. "Chuyu?" Hearing this, their expressions changed. Clearly, they knew Chu Yu's identity. Fairy Chuyu is a personal disciple. Why are you looking for her? That's right. How could a mere inner disciple know a personal disciple? Kid, I advise you not to lie. Otherwise, you'll end up in a miserable state. Whether I know Chu Yu or not, wouldn't you know once you report to her? Lin Xian's expression was calm. If it were an ordinary inner disciple, they would probably be trembling in fear when facing these guards. However, he wouldn't. No matter how strong they were only 3-star kings. As for him, he was someone who could even kill a 4-star king. Therefore, Lin Xian didn't take these guards seriously. "Report to you?" The guard's lips curled into a cold smile. "Kid, we're very busy. We don't have time to report to you. You'd better come another day." Hearing this, Lin Xian frowned. What were they busy with? They obviously wanted to get some benefits from him. However, Lin Xian didn't plan to give these people any benefits. He snorted. "What? You want to extort me? Aren't you afraid that I'll report this to the sect? Report to the sect? Then go report it. See if the sect will believe you?" The guard sneered. Clearly, they often did this kind of thing. "Is that so? If the sect doesn't care, then what about Chu Yu? Let me tell you, I'm looking for Fairy Chu Yu because of an urgent matter. If it's delayed, can you bear the consequences? When the time comes and Fairy Chu Yu punishes you, I'm afraid you'll end up worse than me." Lin Xian said slowly. "You dare threaten us? Kid, you're courting death." The guards were furious. One of them even snorted coldly and waved his sleeve. Immediately, a huge force surged toward Lin Xian. "A mere inner disciple dares to behave atrociously in front of us? You're courting death. Today, I'll teach you a good lesson. I'll let you know what kind of attitude you should have in front of me." The sleeve trembled, and like a floating cloud, It suddenly grew larger in the wind. It was like a cage of heaven and earth that was about to suck Lin Xian in. This was a very terrifying skill called the Heaven and Earth Sleeve. It was rumored that when it was refined to the extreme, it could swallow the heavens and absorb the earth. Of course, it was impossible for the guardian disciple before him to achieve such a feat, however. Collecting the mountains and rivers was not an issue for him at all. The terrifying sleeve enveloped Lin Xian and was about to swallow him whole. Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a flick of his finger, several streaks of sharp sword qi surged out, transforming into a long river that soared into the clouds. Pung pung pung. That terrifying heaven and earth sleeve was instantly slashed by the sword qi and instantly exploded. In an instant, the terrifying scene disappeared. The guardian disciple even took a few steps back, his face extremely ugly. Above his wrist, the wide sleeves were already shattered. His face was ferocious as he stared at Lin Xian. The surrounding guardian disciples also had ferocious expressions. They did not expect that a mere inner disciple would be so powerful that he could destroy the heaven and earth sleeve with a raise of his hand. How dare you behave atrociously here? Take him down. With a furious roar, the remaining guardian disciples immediately moved, wanting to capture Lin Xian. Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a flash of his palm, the dragon sword realm quickly flew out. In an instant, it completely enveloped the remaining 5 guardian disciples. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The sword qi was like a rainbow, incomparably sharp and filled with monstrous killing intent. Countless sword qi surged and surrounded the 5 guardian disciples. As long as they moved, they would be pierced by the sword qi, and hundreds and thousands of holes would appear on their bodies. Immediately, the guardian disciples were stunned, and their faces were extremely ugly. They did not expect that the other party could actually subdue all of them in an instant. One had to know that they were all 3-star kings, and the other party's aura was only that of a 2-star king. How was this possible? Even the strongest inner sect disciples wouldn't be able to do something like this, right? However, they had all seen the strongest few people, but the young man in front of them was incomparably unfamiliar. It was obvious that he had just joined the inner sect. That was why they were so arrogant before, but they did not expect that they would almost be killed. Thinking of this, cold sweat dripped down their bodies, and they no longer dared to be presumptuous in front of Lin Xian. Stop, let's talk nicely. We were wrong before. We apologize to you. We'll go report for you now. The few of them hurriedly apologized. They had no choice. If they dared to say anything else, the sword qi would probably kill them immediately. Hearing this, Lin Xian snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he removed the dragon sword realm. Soon, the few guardian disciples left to report the news. However, Chuyu did not come out. Instead, a young man in a blue robe walked out. Fairy Chuyu is in seclusion refining a kind of pill, so she can't split herself. Since you want to find her, I'll bring you in, the blue-clothed young man said coldly. Moreover, he carefully sized up Lin Xian. When he saw the identity of the disciple and the cultivation of a 2-star king, a slight hint of disdain appeared at the corner of his mouth. All right, Lin Xian nodded. He did not expect that the person who came out was not Chuyu, but someone he did not know at all. Looking at the other party's arrogant expression and strong aura, there was no need to think to know that he should be a core disciple. However, he did not care about the other party's attitude, as long as the other party could bring him in. Nodding, Lin Xian followed the blue-clothed young man into the mountain range where the core disciples lived. As soon as they entered, the blue-clothed young man walked in front with large strides and said coldly, "This is where the core disciples live, far surpassing your inner sect. There are formations everywhere here, and there are even traps in some places. It can be said that one wrong step will consign you to eternal damnation. With your strength and identity, you don't have the qualifications to enter this place. However, I'll bring you in for Chuyu's sake. However, you have to know your limits and follow me closely. Don't wander around. Do you hear me clearly? The blue-clothed young man said coldly. However, Lin Xian did not answer. Instead, he sped up and walked side by side with the blue-clothed young man. Don't worry, I have some understanding of formations. There shouldn't be any danger. Lin Xian looked around and said indifferently, even if there is any danger, I can deal with it. Hearing this, the blue-clothed young man's face darkened. In his opinion, Lin Xian was too arrogant and did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. A small inner sect disciple with a cultivation of only a 2-star king actually dared to boast that he was proficient in formations and could even resist the formations here? The array formation here was no ordinary array formation. Each of them was extremely terrifying, and inner sect disciples could not withstand them at all. Even if it was a core disciple, if they accidentally entered, it would be very troublesome. Chapter 1569. However, core disciples were very familiar with the surrounding terrain, so under normal circumstances they would not enter these formations. Kid, it seems that you're very confident in yourself. Since that's the case, I'm relieved. The man in blue sneered, his eyes full of disdain. He did not believe Lin Xian's words at all. Therefore, he planned to teach him a lesson and let him know what it meant to be arrogant. In the next moment, the man in blue's figure swayed, and he could not help but speed up, like a bolt of blue lightning. He instantly disappeared on the spot and walked forward. Soon, he arrived at a safe place. Proficient in formations? Can you handle it? Humph, what an idiot. Let me see how you're going to pass through the formations and traps there. The man in blue raised a disdainful smile because, in his opinion, the other party would not be able to walk out at all. If he left, he would probably fall into the formation very quickly. At that time, he wanted to see if the other party could still be arrogant. The man in blue revealed a sinister smile. To be honest, if the other party was not looking for Chuyu, he would have slapped the other party to death. Is that so? I think senior brother is overthinking. Are the formations here as magical as you say? At this moment, a light voice was heard. Hearing this voice, the man in blue jumped in fright. He suddenly turned around and found Lin Xian standing not far away from him. Immediately, his eyes widened, as if he had seen a ghost. How is this possible? How is this possible? How could he walk out of those formations and traps so quickly? One had to know that he had displayed his powerful speed just now. No one below 4-star king could keep up with him. However, the other party had arrived here at almost the same time as him. It was too strange. Lin Xian saw the other party's shocked expression, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly, revealing a mocking smile. Then he said indifferently, "Senior brother, let's go. I have something important to talk to Fairy Chuyu about." Humph. Seeing the other party's disdainful smile, the man in blue's face became gloomy. His eyes flickered with a trace of killing intent. To be honest, he had never been so embarrassed before. Moreover, it was in front of a small inner sect disciple. This made him want to kill him. However, after thinking for a moment, he gave up in the end, because he didn't know what the relationship between this kid and Chuyu was. Chuyu was a personal disciple. Her status was even higher than that of a core disciple. If he really killed her now, Chuyu would blame him. At that time, he would be the unlucky one. The blue-clothed young man snorted again and said coldly, "Come with me." In the end, he brought Lin Xian to the mountain peak where Chuyu lived. Fairy Chuyu is inside. You can wait outside. After saying that, he turned into a blue light and left without looking back. Lin Xian clasped his hands behind his back and looked ahead curiously. The mountains and rivers were clear, just like a fairyland. It was indeed a good place to live and cultivate. This treatment is really different. Lin Xian sighed. He only had a single courtyard, but the core disciples all had their own mountain peaks. This was a world of difference. With a flicker, Lin Xian arrived at the peak of the mountain. There were several palaces in front of him, but he didn't enter. Instead, he found an ancient tree and sat down cross-legged to cultivate. About 2 hours later, a strange fragrance came from the palaces in front of him. The fragrance was very strong. When one smelled it, one would feel the spiritual energy in one's body boil. This is a pill fragrance. Lin Xian opened his eyes and revealed a trace of surprise. He could imagine that it was definitely not an ordinary pill. Otherwise, it wouldn't have caused such a strange fragrance. A profound pill. It looks like it's at least a mid-grade profound pill. Lin Xian was shocked. Profound pills were pills used by kings. They were divided into 4 grades: basic, mid-grade, high grade, and supreme grade. Different grades had different effects. Generally, people below 3-star kings would only use basic grade profound pills. It was very rare to encounter a mid-grade profound pill. After all, even though it was just a difference of 1 word, a mid-grade profound pill was very difficult to refine. With Lin Xian's current state, the failure rate was very high. However, he didn't expect that Chuyu would actually succeed. He had to admit that it really surprised him. Soon, the pill fragrance disappeared. Then, the doors of the palaces in front of him slowly opened, and a beautiful figure walked in. It was a tall and slender woman. She wore an aqua green robe. Her skin was fair, and her face was exquisite. She looked like a fairy. There was still a faint fragrance on her body. Congratulations on successfully refining a mid-grade profound pill. Lin Xian walked up and said with a smile, why are you here? Seeing the person in front of him, Chuyu was stunned for a moment, then smiled. I didn't expect that not only are you strong, but your eyesight is also very sharp. You can tell at a glance that I'm refining a mid-grade profound pill. Don't laugh at me. I'm just a small inner disciple now. How can I compare to you, a direct disciple? Come in. Chuyu rolled his eyes and waved his hand. Then Lin Xian walked in. How is it? Are you used to living in Danzong? Chuyu asked. It's okay, but it's not as comfortable as you core disciples. Of course, Chuyu smiled. The status of a core disciple and an inner disciple are completely different. It's like the difference between heaven and earth. Then she asked suspiciously, No way. You're thinking about becoming a core disciple again. That's right. That's why I came to find you. Heavens, how many days have you been in the inner sect? Only a month? You want to become a core disciple already? That's too fast, isn't it? I'm afraid this has never happened in the history of Danzong. Chuyu was shocked. However, Lin Xian smiled and said, It didn't happen in the past, but it doesn't mean it won't happen in the future. Also, I heard that some core disciples have disappeared. I don't know if they're dead or alive. I'm afraid they won't be coming back. Do you have any way to prevent me from becoming a core disciple? Lin Xian asked. Okay. After a while, Chuyu came back to her senses. Indeed, Lu Chao of the core disciples disappeared in Fengshan. I don't think he'll be coming back. So, it's certain that a new core disciple will be chosen, and it's probably something that happened recently. I have to say, you're really lucky. You've just arrived, and you've already encountered something like this. One had to know that under normal circumstances, an inner sect disciple might not encounter something like this even after 8 to 10 years. Lin Xian only smiled, but in his heart he muttered, How can I not be lucky? Lu Chao was killed by me. A core disciple. A 4-star king. With such a terrifying status and strength, no one would dare to provoke him. Not to mention 8 to 10 years. He might not even die in a few decades. Lu Chao deserved it. Daring to provoke him was simply courting death. Chapter 1570. At this moment, Chu Yu said again, according to past experience, whenever there's a vacancy in the core disciple position, the top 10 inner disciples will be selected to compete. The winner will become the new core disciple. I think this time will be no exception. Top 10 inner disciples? Hearing this, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. Can you give me a spot? Chu Yu smiled. I've helped you so much. What do you have to give me? Elixir recipe. Elixir recipe? Chu Yu was confused. This is Danzong. There are countless elixir recipes. I'm a direct disciple. I can have any elixir recipe I want. You're fooling me with this condition. What if it's an ancient elixir recipe? Lin Xian smiled. What? Ancient elixir recipe? You have an ancient elixir recipe? Chu Yu was shocked. Then she quickly asked, what grade is it? Middle grade Xian elixir. Chu Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. Lin Xian smiled. I can give it to you now. He flipped his palm and took out a jade slip. However, Chu Yu received the jade slip and quickly examined it. After a while, she smiled. Yes, it's an ancient elixir recipe. It's a mid-grade Xian elixir. Where did you get such a good thing? Chu Yu asked curiously. Even in Danzong, there weren't many ancient elixir recipes. It was good to have one more. Lin Xian smiled and said, I found it in an ancient ruin. You could say that it was a coincidence. Of course, he was lying. He had many elixir recipes like this. The inheritance of the Niwa of Gojoseon wasn't very useful to him now. However, he still had Lord Alcohol. Moreover, the 4th-generation successor of the Dragon Sword had collected many elixir recipes. Therefore, he had a lot of elixir recipes. Then I'll accept it. On the other side, Chu Yu happily accepted the elixir recipe. Then, she said, don't worry about the challenge. I'll arrange it for you. However, I must remind you that the battle this time around will likely be very intense, because becoming a core disciple is equivalent to a carp leaping through the dragon's gate. Therefore, those inner disciples will fight for it with their lives. That's not a problem. I'm confident, Lin Xian said calmly. Indeed, no matter if it was battle prowess or alchemy, he had absolute confidence in both. All right then, I'll let you know when there's news. Chu Yu nodded. As a direct disciple, her strength was frighteningly great. Thus, this kind of matter was still within her capabilities. After that, Lin Xian left. On the other side, the entire inner sect was in an uproar because the news was spreading everywhere. That was to choose a new core disciple. It wasn't a secret that core disciple Lu Chao had disappeared. Everyone in Danzong knew about it. The ones who were the most excited were, of course, the inner court disciples. This was especially true for the top inner sect disciples. Normally, they would not have the opportunity to become core disciples. However, things were different now. Now that they were short of a core disciple, the sect would definitely quickly replenish them. The core disciple would be chosen among the inner court disciples. Of course, the ordinary inner court disciples had no hope at all. They could only watch the show. Only the top inner court disciples had a chance to fight for it. This is so exciting. The core disciple selection this time will probably be the fiercest battle in the sect. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen such an intense battle. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Indeed. However, thinking about it, the one who has the highest chance of becoming an inner court disciple must be Chi Yu. He's widely acknowledged as the #1 inner court disciple. However, Luo Yuan is also quite powerful. I heard that his cultivation has improved greatly recently. Perhaps he might even surpass Chiyu. Yeah, and my goddess, Luo, her alchemy skills are unparalleled, and her strength is superb. She will definitely become a core disciple. Everyone was discussing animatedly. Lin Xian happened to pass by. When he heard these names, he raised his eyebrows. They should be the strongest among the inner court disciples. However, he didn't care. With his current strength, he didn't need to care about anyone. As expected, 6 days later, the news of a new core disciple selection was officially announced by the sect. Suddenly, the entire inner court was in an uproar. At the same time, Lin Xian received a letter from Chu Yu. The letter stated that he had obtained the qualification to participate in the core disciple selection. After receiving the news, Lin Xian smiled. He could finally become a core disciple. That way, he would be able to learn some secrets about the Danzong. Moreover, the core disciples had a very high status. They had the power to decide life and death. Some of the more powerful core disciples were actually not inferior to the elders. If he could obtain the position of a core disciple, it would be a good thing for Lin Xian. As for the other inner court disciples, they gathered at the side to look at the names. Chiyu Luo Yuan and Luo Shi one by one. Familiar names appeared in front of them. That's right, the top 10. They are indeed the top 10 inner court disciples. I knew it. Everyone nodded. It was the same in the past. The top 10 inner court disciples competed for a core disciple position. However, they were soon stunned because they found the 11th person at the bottom of the list, Lin Xian. Who is Lin Xian? Is he famous? I don't know. I've never heard of him. We all know the famous geniuses in the inner court, but we've never heard of Lin Xian. Who is he? For a moment, everyone was very confused and started discussing. Obviously, they could not understand this name that suddenly appeared. However, soon, someone said, "Oh, right, wasn't there an inner court disciple who just entered a month ago?" I think his name is Lin Xian. What? A new inner court disciple who just entered a month ago? Lin Xian? Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. God, what kind of joke is this? A newcomer can enter the core disciple selection list? How is that possible? Yeah, could it be the same name? Maybe the sect made a mistake. Yeah, there were only 10 people before. Why are there 11 now? And it's a newcomer. This doesn't make sense. Everyone was discussing. However, in the end, they found that the sect did not make a mistake. Moreover, it was the newcomer who had just entered the inner court a month ago. Suddenly, everyone was in an uproar. The entire inner court was in an uproar. They could not understand how a newcomer who had just entered the inner court could be on the list. I heard that Lin Xian was promoted directly when he entered the inner court. It seems that he has some background. So what if he has a background? This time, he was promoted to a core disciple. It's not as simple as entering the inner court. Chapter 1571. The top 10 geniuses all have powerful backgrounds. Most of them have core disciples behind them, and some even have elders behind them. That's right. Even if there is one more person, it shouldn't be Lin Xian. The top 15 are all qualified to enter, but why is it a newbie? Everyone was dissatisfied with the decision. However, this was the sect's decision, and they could not change it. The crowd snorted. What's the point of being on the list? If he's not strong enough, he'll still be eliminated. That's right. He just entered the inner sect for a month. How powerful can he be? The last time I saw him, he was only a one-star king. What? Only a one-star king? That's not even as strong as me. Haha. I really want to see Lin Xian get beaten black and blue in the arena. Why bother? with his cultivation. He'll just humiliate himself. Everyone sneered. However, in the crowd, when Zhou Hai and the others saw this, their eyes widened in shock. They had seen Lin Xian's methods and knew that Lin Xian was not as simple as he looked. One had to know that even the extremely terrifying Fang Li had been killed by Lin Xian with ease. Therefore, they believed that Lin Xian would be able to participate in the core disciple competition. However, only a few of them believed him. Most of the others were sneering and jealous. Therefore, none of them thought highly of Lin Xian. As for the top 10 inner disciples, after hearing the news, they sneered, their eyes filled with disdain. None of them took Lin Xian seriously. In their eyes, a newbie who had just entered the inner sect was not worth mentioning. They could easily kill him with a finger. Their real targets were Qiyu, Luo Yuan, and Luoshi. They were their real enemies. Danzong, Baiyun Mountain. This was a very important place in the inner sect. Every time an elder gave a lesson, it would be held here. Today, there were no elders holding classes. However, the number of people that came to Mount Baiyun was countless times greater than before. On top of that, even more disciples were making their way here from all directions. Because today was the day of the inner court competition, the selection of core disciples. This kind of opportunity could be said to be extremely rare. Normally, there were very few opportunities to be promoted to core disciple. If Lu Chao hadn't gone missing, they wouldn't have obtained such a precious spot. In this place, the top disciples would engage in an intense battle. To the ordinary inner disciples, this was undoubtedly a grand battle event. Halfway up Mount Baiyun, there was a huge piece of flat land. It was covered with green stone slabs. It was the White Cloud Plaza. At this moment, countless people had gathered in the White Cloud Square. They were like dark clouds. Basically, all the inner disciples had arrived. The main characters of this competition, the elite disciples of the inner court, had also arrived one by one. Every time one of them appeared, it would cause a wave of exclamations. It could not be helped, as the top 10 inner disciples were extremely powerful and had outstanding reputations. They already possessed extremely high statuses among the inner disciples. The 10 inner disciples stood in a row at the front. Those people were wearing luxurious clothes and had a dignified appearance. They had a strong and confident aura. However, at this moment, another silhouette slowly walked forward. Who is that? Everyone was puzzled as they realized that it was an unfamiliar face, young, handsome, and confident. However, when they sensed the cultivation of the other party, they were all dumbfounded. A 2-star king. He only had the cultivation of a 2-star king. Oh, I know. He's that Lin Xian. What? He's Lin Xian? He really dares to come? With his cultivation, he dares to come on stage? What a disgrace. He doesn't know what's good for him. I guess he's just a hothead. He thinks that he can become a core disciple just because he has a little background. But he doesn't know that this battle is about strength. Any schemes and tricks are useless. Cold laughter could be heard, and the entire plaza was in an uproar. When Lin Xian heard the voices around him, he narrowed his eyes and snorted coldly. He didn't say anything to argue, because in a while he would use his own strength to let everyone know who was the frog at the bottom of the well. Brother Lin, go for it. Zhou Hai and the others in the crowd cheered when they saw this. Lin Xian smiled and greeted Zhou Hai and the others. Soon, Lin Xian arrived at the front of the plaza. The 10 inner disciples in front of him looked arrogant and looked at him with disdain. In their eyes, Lin Xian was not qualified to stand with them. Kid, get lost. This is not a place where you can come. I advise you to admit defeat and leave quickly. You'll only embarrass yourself later. A piece of trash wants to become a core disciple? What a joke. A few disdainful laughs could be heard. The others also looked at Lin Xian with arrogance on their faces. On the other hand, Lin Xian narrowed his eyes and stared at the three arrogant fellows. He asked coldly, "What are the names of the three geniuses?" "Yang Fan, Qing Feng, Wu Kuan," the three of them said arrogantly, and then sneered. "Kid, you're really ignorant. You don't even know our names?" Lin Xian said coldly, "It's not too late to know now. I'll remember the three of you. I won't go easy on you in the battle later. I'll let you know the consequences of talking nonsense." After saying that, he turned around and stood aside. "Kid, you're courting death." The three of them were furious. A new inner disciple dared to threaten the three of them? He was really courting death. The remaining 7 inner disciples also widened their eyes in disbelief. Their eyes kept sizing up Lin Xian, wondering where he got his confidence from. One had to know that he was only a 2-star king. So what if he was strong? At most, he was equivalent to a 3-star king. However, their cultivation was at the 3-star king level, and most of them were at the late stage of the 3-star king level. If they used some secret techniques, they could even compete with 4-star kings. They could be said to be extremely powerful. It could be said that they were the top group of people in the inner sect. Now, a new ant dared to look down on them? It was truly unbelievable. "Kid, I'll teach you a lesson now. You don't know your place." The few of them were about to attack. However, at this moment, a few air-rending sounds came from afar. Several figures flew over at high speed like rainbows. It's the core disciples and elders. In the crowd, the inner disciples exclaimed. Everyone looked up at the sky. Upon seeing this, the 3 inner disciples who were about to attack immediately halted their actions and harumphed coldly. "Kid, you're lucky. However, you won't be so lucky in the battle later. Thank you, Angel Reincarnation, for giving you a worry-free reward. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.